What's going on? Welcome to Cleave to Antiquity. My name is Pastor Ben. Today I am joined by Javier Perdomo. What's going on, brother? Oh,
All
and
right.
he's
I
frozen.
can't hear you. Hold on.
Yeah, I don't know. Is that on your end or is that on my end? Let me know
Can you
if
hear me?
the audio is jacked up in the
So I can't
comment
hear
there.
you. Okay, hold on.
Chat, let me know whose audio is messed up. Is it my audio?
All right, I'll exit and come back in. See if I can hear you.
All right. I don't know if it's me or what. Oh, okay, cool. All right, sweet deal. Well, welcome to the show. It's going to be an interesting one today, talking about the Immaculate Conception. I got quite a few notes on this, so we'll dive into this in a little bit. But we've been having some fun this week. Let me see what you guys got. Make sure before we get started, go ahead and like the stream, share it on X if you're able to, so that way we get more people in the comments here. This is going to be really good information for y'all, so you can get your notepads out, whatever you want to do to take down some of this information, because these are some of the uh, best arguments against the Immaculate Conception that you're probably going to get from the Protestant perspective on YouTube. Just being completely honest, I haven't seen too many people go through this type of material. So get your notepads out, share the stream, like it. It's going to be an awesome time, and I'm grateful for Javier swinging by the show and taking some time to join us today. Is that better for you, brother?
Yeah, I can hear you now. That was my bad.
Awesome.
All right.
I was like, oh man, is it me?
No, anyone that's like ever watched my channel, especially in the early days, is aware that every time there's tech involved, something goes wrong on my channel.
Yeah. This guy says, our brother out here looking like Protestant Dyer. Hold on.
Dude,
I got something
literally,
for you.
bro.
I got something for you. Here you go. Now I'll do the
Now
like
you
the
just gotta go debate feminist on the whatever podcast now.
oh dude.
And then you
I don't know.
complete the look.
I don't know if I'd ever want to go on that podcast, to be
It's
completely
so
honest.
bad. Like the
just the just the
the
thumbnails
only
alone. I'm
time
like, dude, I don't want to hop on that thing.
Dude, like the only time I've tuned in, I think, was like when Trent Horn went on and he wiped the floor with Destiny on abortion, and that was just a great showing for the pro-life position. But then like I've watched maybe like two other episodes, and there's like a Christian interlocutor on, and even then I'm like, dude, this can't, like, people watch this like all the time. This cannot be good for people's souls. Like,
Yeah. I mean,
like
I'll never say never, but I would be hard pressed to want to hop on that show. But who knows? I guess it depends if they had like a really good debate lined up, and if it wasn't just like the typical stuff where it's like e-girls debating
yeah.
e-girls online or something. All right, man. Well, hey, thanks for popping on the channel. I know you got some stuff coming up. Why don't you plug your channel, who you are, what you do, and what you have coming up?
Yeah, thanks. So my name is Javier Perdomo. I have a YouTube channel where we discuss church history, theology, Reformation apologetics. 90% of the things that we do on my channel, although I do have some like general history stuff and other things. Most of what we do on the channel is being done through a Reformation apologetics lens. And so even when we're doing just general theology, whether it's Christology or something else, I always have questions for my guests who a lot of the time are either apologists or they're actual theologians and pastors and such, college professors a lot of the time as well. There's still questions in there with an eye toward apologetics, interfacing with Roman Catholicism, Eastern Orthodoxy, or as we've termed them together under an umbrella of ecclesialism on the channel. And so I have my channel, goes by the same name. And I also have a Substack where I put articles out on different things, but quite a few of them are just like massive quote compilations on issues like what we're discussing today of the Immaculate Conception. I have one with like, I think it's over 100 quotes from church fathers, a lot of them with the original languages and everything, and links where people can find them. and I got other ones on the canon. I got some of like just Roman Catholic quotations against papal infallibility prior to the definition of papal infallibility at Vatican I, and lots of other fun stuff.
Awesome, man. Well, hey, thank you so much for swinging by. I know you're gonna have a good stream. What, tomorrow, right?
Yeah, tomorrow, 5K celebration stream on the question of whether Christians and Muslims worship the same God. So it should be fun.
Yeah, that'll be an interesting topic. Before we get into the Immaculate Conception stuff, let me just say something for the audience real quick. If y'all want to ask us questions throughout the stream, feel free to send in super chats. We'll get to them as they come in. But then at the end, I'll open up a little bit of time for a Q&A. I was supposed to hop on another channel, but this guy never got back to me. So if I don't, how long are you good to go for, Javier?
Yeah, my internet kind of skipped out there, so I missed most of that, but I'm good to go for a couple hours if need be.
So. Okay, cool. All right, so we'll do Q&A at the end, but if you guys got questions, send in a super chat. We'll get to that. That helps keep the stream going. I do pay for some of the resources here, so if you want to help me keep the lights on, I appreciate it. Also, leave a like on the stream so more people will join in. But I want to talk about something fun before we get into the Immaculate Conception stuff. So I've been having a little bit of a back and forth with Sam Shimon lately. Those of you that watch this channel probably already know where I'm going with this, but Vatican II has been a topic I've discussed for a long time because it literally doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make any sense at all to say that Muslims have the same God as Christians. That's the hot button issue right now. Jim Bob got in on the fun. A couple other people got in on the fun. But I was talking to Sam Shimon, and I have this kind of bit that I do where I'll ask them this question. Well, if Muslims have the same God as you, because a lot of them will make this argument, well, they're referring to the same God. They're referring, so it's the intention. It's all about the intention. Okay, well, if I say a pink elephant with a unicorn horn is the same God of Abraham, the creator of the universe, is that the same God as Christians? So this was Sam Shimon's response to that. So I said, so basically, if I worship a pink elephant with a unicorn horn, but I claim it is the God of Abraham, the creator of the universe, and the same God as the Christians, I actually have the same God, because he was making this argument on a stream. And he basically says, yeah, it would be the same God because you're referring to the same God. So I thought that was really funny. I made a little meme. I'm gonna play it real quick.
Yeah.
I thought it was hilarious. So he says what makes this really funny is he says Anthony Rogers, who's been on the show before and is going to come back on the show to talk about arguments against Islam. He says Anthony Rogers, since he's a Calvinist, actually worships Satan and doesn't worship the same God as him. But he says Muslims do, and he says the pink elephant does. Is the same God. So
make these sessions go viral and see why Calvinism is a cancer. It is a cancer and a blot on Christianity. The God of Calvin and Anthony Rogers is not the true God. Anthony is a son of Satan. He's not a Christian. It's sad people give him a platform.
I thought that was hilarious.
You went full Zoomer on the edit. I appreciate it.
Yeah, I thought that was pretty funny. Actually, JP Uncut made the pink elephant, but I thought that was hilarious, man.
Well, and it's funny too, because the sort of counter argument I see people giving to your point is like, well, clearly something like a pink elephant couldn't be that God because it's material or whatever. Which it's kind of funny because I feel like shouldn't their side be saying, well, you're wrong about some of the details about the pink elephant, namely that he's material, but you have the same referent, right? Isn't that? I thought that was their argument, but.
Yeah, pretty much. Some of the arguments I got back on this was, oh, well, it's not a fair comparison because it's composite or whatever. But this is made in response to people using creatures as an example. Who did that same thing? Kevin from Since 33 AD did one where he's like, one person thinks Cameron is a girl. One person thinks Cameron is a boy. Are they talking about the same person? It's like, okay, well, it's fair to use this then if you're referring to creatures. But yeah, I thought that was hilarious, man. This has been one of the funniest weeks in apologetics that we've had in quite some time. To be completely honest, hey, Sam Shimon, if you're watching this, let's debate Vatican II. I would love to debate Sam Shimon on Vatican II. That
Let's
would
make it happen.
be phenomenal, man. Make it happen, guys. Go tag
Everybody tell
Sam
Sam.
Shimon. Go tag Sam Shimon. Say debate cleave to antiquity on your pink elephant with a unicorn horn theology. I would love to have a conversation with my good friend Sam. And we'll talk about how he thinks the God of Calvinism. I'm not a Calvinist, but he thinks the God of Calvinism is a false God and is actually Satan. But he thinks that a pink elephant with a unicorn horn is the same God that he has. An absolutely ridiculous double standard, but still very funny.
Totally.
Yeah, debate him on Vatican III next. What's next? What happens in Vatican III? I don't even want to know.
Yeah.
What's going to be the new dogma? What's going to be the new topic of Vatican III?
The pink
What
elephant.
do you think, Javier? I can't think of something more ridiculous than to say like that Muslims have the same God as Christians. Kevin called into Jay Dyer's show. Did you see that?
I did not know.
Yeah, he called into Jay Dyer's show, and Jay was talking about how Vatican II actually discusses Hinduism as well as sharing the same God, which is something that I didn't catch in the document. But he was arguing that it does talk about that, and it capitalizes the G in God for the God of Hinduism. So I thought that was kind of interesting. And Kevin called in, and Jay kind of made quick work of it and then booted him off. But I thought that was kind of an interesting stream. If you haven't seen that, check out that. So there's some channels out there that do like clips or whatever. But I thought that was funny. This has been an interesting time in apologetics, seeing a lot of people kind of teaming up on this Vatican II thing.
Yes.
Jim Bob, who's an Orthodox guy, shared the elephant thing. I mean, all sorts of people are just kind of piling on. it's been really fun.
I think it's because anyone who's not bound to hold Vatican II as infallible sees this as pretty ridiculous, right? I mean, the fact that if we, I mean, I know that people get into all the philosophical argumentation and so on and so forth, but it really is on its surface as simple as like if you and I and a Muslim were transported back in time, right, to the crucifixion, you and I could point to the man on the cross and be like, "That's my God. I worship him. Is that your God? Do you worship him?" And the Muslim would just say, "No."
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
So it really is pretty simple when you put it in those terms, but. Yeah, I feel like they're having to twist themselves into pretzels to try to justify, holding a fallible, in this case, errant document as infallible. So
yeah,
it is what it is.
absolutely. And I think it really eats up guys like Sam Shimon because he spent his entire career fighting Islam and saying that Muslims have their God is actually Satan and all this other stuff, and now he's forced to defend this horrible ecumenical council. I mean, probably one of the most controversial ecumenical councils there's ever been for Roman Catholics. He's forced to defend it, forced to defend that Muslims have the same God as him after years of saying that Muslims actually worship Satan. So it's just a complete 180. I'm sure that's kind of like messing them up right now. But I think what we're going to see, this is my prediction, okay? I'm going to predict this for you, okay? I think very soon we'll probably see Sam Shimon become Eastern Orthodox. I think that's a pretty safe prediction.
Interesting.
He's going to jump ship, become Eastern Orthodox, because that's typically what happens when people buy into the one true churchism. You got to figure out but it's got to be one of the two. Yeah. Or one of the three if you consider the Oriental Orthodox. I don't see too many people bouncing between that. But typically from people who leave the Protestant tradition, they'll jump into either Roman Catholicism or Eastern Orthodoxy. And then as soon as they see a bunch of issues in that tradition, they're like, all right, maybe the grass was greener. And it's just kind of this endless cycle. I used to have a good meme that was like, it's like the little chart with now I'm going to become Roman Catholic. Pope says something bad. Okay, now Eastern Orthodox. Okay, whatever. And so on and so forth. So, all right. So, man, let's dive into the Immaculate Conception, the reason that we're here to discuss some of the arguments against the Immaculate Conception. I was actually having a discussion on Eric's channel, Catholic Christian, who you had a informal debate with.
Yeah.
What was that on? What were you debating on? The canon, right?
Yeah, we're debating the canon. So he was talking. This was when he was doing a video on Wes Huff, because Wes Huff had this massive victory in the public square for Christianity, right? And then he got invited on the Joe Rogan podcast, so that was another great victory at defending the legitimacy of the Bible. And now apparently Joe Rogan's trying out church and seeing what it's all about. It was that big of a victory, and then he started making the rounds online. And so not all, but a lot of Roman Catholic apologists said, like, wow, at this just key, wonderful time where Christianity is getting a lot of exposure, maybe what we should do is try to dunk on Protestantism. Right. And so that's
Yeah.
what,
Yeah,
and so that's
exactly.
what they were all doing. I don't know that obviously Catholic Christian was necessarily dunking on him the whole time. I was there for part of the stream and I had to go for another part, and then I came back. But there was one part after he was done talking about the Wes Huff situation in relation to what Wes was talking about, where he starts talking about the canon, and he starts saying that, like, that he being Catholic Christian, and he says, like things like there was a consensus from the 4th century on that no one was doubting until the Reformation in favor of the Tridentine position, and all of these sorts of things. And I was like, wow, this is just completely wrong and inaccurate. And I was like, he seems like a chill guy, and so I asked him, like, hey, or rather, someone let me know, one of his mods, they were going to open it up for the debate later, and so I just hopped on for the debate later, and we had an informal debate on the canon, and I was able to upload that part of the stream on my channel. So that was pretty good.
Awesome, man. Yeah, right on. I actually, that's pretty funny. If y'all haven't seen that, a while ago, there was a Eastern Orthodox patriarch that said Muhammad was an apostle, actually.
I saw that
Well,
quote.
and there was a very recent one that said that he was a prophet as well. So it seems like, I mean, I don't know, you kind of see a lot within the Eastern Orthodox Church, their patriarchs basically being, preaching heresy, also formally being heretics historically. Like the Patriarch of Constantinople has been a heretic multiple times in history. But you see a lot of really wild statements by the Eastern Orthodox patriarchs. E.P. Bartholomew said that all religions have the same God. Let me share that real quick, because that was an interesting statement, and I posted that as a short. Let me see if I can find that real quick.
While you pull it up, it's kind of interesting to me, just kind of funny that after all this talk about Protestants and their silly private judgment, having to judge what pastor to submit to and whatever, that suddenly all the ortho bros online are like, well, this patriarch is wrong and this other patriarch is wrong, and
yeah,
suddenly all the lay apologists need to use their private judgment, it turns out, to
yeah,
figure out which
exactly.
patriarchs are wrong.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, let me play this real quick.
Do you agree with the Orthodox Ecumenical Patriarch Bartholomew when he says this?
We have the same Heavenly Father, whatever we call him. And as being his...
We of all religions have the same Heavenly Father.
Of course, God is but one.
What do you think about this?
Do you like the way I end those shorts always? What do you think about this?
Yeah. It's a good hook, man. It's a good hook.
Yeah. Get the people to let me know. Let me know what you think. Do all religions have the same Heavenly Father? Do you agree with Ecumenical Patriarch Bartholomew? I've done a lot of different discussions on that particular office. Historically, it's pretty much been proven that the Ecumenical Patriarch in history has been a CIA asset. I've done some videos on that. I don't know if you ever saw that. Ecumenical Patriarch Athenagoras said something along the lines of, I have X amount of bishops, I have 200 something priests or whatever, a far-flung organization. Anything you tell me that you need me to do, I'll go ahead and I'll get it done. He was a CIA asset. And he said that while he was archbishop, and then the Ecumenical Patriarch at the time had schizophrenia. He was deposed. Guess who happened to be the new EP right after that? Mr. Thank you, OSS. I will serve you, precursor to the CIA. So kind of interesting. Interesting that you see a lot of these guys that are compromised like that make these statements like all religions lead to God, Archbishop Elpidophoros said the same thing. He was like, it's all paths up the mountain. You just can't see them because the bushes, they're obscuring your view, stuff like that. So
I will say it also is funny that for a lot of these sorts of arguments, especially from the Roman Catholic friends, but potentially from the Orthodox proponents as well, it's kind of interesting how they're always just going to like, well, philosophically speaking, if we can just start to concoct like parallel, like whatever. And then you look at scripture and Jesus is telling the Pharisees that their father is Satan, not
yeah, yeah,
not God, because they're refusing to believe in the Christ. And so this is one of those moments where I will say like biblicism gets a bad rap, and to be fair, that's because you have people that don't want to follow confessions and whatever. But this is one of those almost like biblicist dubs when the person who just has their Bible can say, actually, yeah, no, we don't worship the same God.
yeah.
All right, what are you guys talking about?
Yeah, he says your father is Satan because you reject Jesus. Yeah, I mean that's all over the Bible. And if you were to read the patristic commentaries on those particular verses, they say basically the same thing. They say they forfeited their ability to call God their heavenly Father. So that goes in opposition to the modern Vatican II view that they have the same God as Muslims or Hindus or a pink elephant with a unicorn horn. All of this craziness. I mean, this is literally, guys, this is your brain on Vatican II. You are forced to defend the most absurd thing. You can't blame the orbs. You cannot blame the orbs for Sam Shimon. You ever seen those videos where Sam's got the orbs floating around? He's like, oh, it's
angels.
Oh, it's an orb. Yeah, it's an angel in my room, the little dust particles or whatever. God bless him. God bless you, Sam, if you're watching this, but that is pretty funny, man. You got to admit. So, Sam, if you want to debate Vatican II, I'm all about it. All right, let's dive into the Immaculate Conception. So, for those of you that are not the orbs, bro, the orbs. Yeah, don't forget to like the live stream. As we go into this type of material, we're going to dive into the Immaculate Conception. If you have questions and you want us to stop in the middle of it and answer your questions, send a super chat, support the stream. Also, consider getting a membership. I'm going to do a lot of members only content as well. So I do at least one members video a week, as well as members first debates. I've got one coming up with Father James and Father Joseph, a true Orthodox priest and an Anglican priest are going to debate Sola Scriptura. It's going first, being published out first for members. 2 weeks after that, I'm going to post it public. So if you want to support the channel, that's a good option there as well. All right, let's dive into it, man. So the Immaculate Conception basically is that the Blessed Theotokos was free of original sin. So you have this Eastern kind of view of pre-purification that I would say has a lot more patristic backing than the view of original sin or freedom of original sin, rather. The freedom of original sin, you don't really see explicitly stated anywhere early on at all. Now, there are Roman Catholic scholars that some might say are a little more liberal that would literally say that you don't see the specific aspect of the Blessed Theotokos being free of original sin for the first 1,000 years of the church. I don't know if I would put it that far out, but there are Roman Catholic scholars that do state that. So we're going to dive into some of this stuff. I was actually just discussing this very topic on Catholic_Christians channel with Michael Corleone, and he was like trying to throw some various nuance, like hyper qualified nuances at me about the Immaculate Conception that we'll discuss here as well. But we'll just go ahead and dive into it. I guess what I want to start off with is I will just read to you this. I'll read to you this Roman Catholic scholar on the Immaculate Conception. Let me go ahead and pull up my screen so you can see these resources, and I'll just go ahead and I'll read the citation just to kind of kick off the conversation. If you guys have any questions, feel free to send in a super chat. But I'll go ahead and I'll just kick this off for us. All right, so this is Carl Rayner on the Immaculate Conception. And he says, after some uncertainty about the holiness of Mary, inspired by Luke 248, and indeed some negative pronouncements, Cyril of Alexandria, about the absolute sinlessness of Mary. The absolute sinlessness of Mary was taught for the first time by Pelagius and Augustine. What a duo. What a duo. This thesis was soon expanded into the freedom from original sin, which was then attributed to Mary in the East. Something similar was taught by Andrew of Crete and John of Damascus. No express testimony to Mary's freedom from original sin is found in the West before about AD 1000. All right, this is according to Roman Catholic scholar Karl Rahner. If you guys want to screenshot this and use this in your notes, I would highly recommend you do so. But I mean, some Roman Catholics will hand wave this type of citation or whatever the case may be. But the fact remains, this is a Roman Catholic scholar speaking on the issue. I would personally disagree with him that you see this, you don't see this language until about 1000 AD, but this is a Roman Catholic scholar speaking on the issue.
Yeah. Well, what we see, which I've documented on my Substack that people can go ahead and look up. If I can just pull it up here so I can tell you guys the title of the Substack.
Yeah, why don't you go ahead and share the screen with your Substack on it?
Yeah, let me see if I can do that.
Pelagius and Augustine agreeing is crazy.
All right, let me share screen.
So this individual says, so Jesus was conceived inside a sinner. Well, if you were to read early church commentary on this, the vast majority of patristic citations very early on either state that she had a nature subject to impurity or had implicit sin in some sense. We can cite from Chrysostom. We can cite from, I was just discussing with this gentleman right here. I am the number one sophist. So I was just discussing with him last night about Ephraim the Syrian, in which he was giving me some hyper qualified, nuanced takes on their particular view of original sin. But even Ephraim the Syrian states that she had a nature subject to impurity. If you were to read Augustine, he says some things like spotless. He says some other things as well. But he also he has some interesting takes on this particular issue, because even he will say that her earthly corruption was repelled by his divine majesty. So take from that what you want. That is what Augustine says, though, in reference to this instance.
So, yeah. Well, so this is my article, and I can give a quick little summary here. I do have over 150, I believe, patristic and medieval quotes here, which undermine the Roman Catholic dogma of the Immaculate Conception. What I mean by that is there's actually a variety of positions in the patristic and the medieval era, although I think the vast majority of these quotes that I list here are from the patristic era. There's three, I guess I would summarize it as three different positions that essentially undermine the Tridentine, I'm saying Tridentine, sorry. I'm so used to dealing with the Council of Trent, with the Roman Catholic position, rather. And so position number one that is taken by a lot of the fathers is that Jesus is the only sinless person. And so maybe these fathers don't go in and explicitly say, oh, and by the way, speaking of Mary, she also sinned or was conceived in sin or what have you. Maybe they don't say that, but then they make really, really strong statements. Things like Jesus is the first and the last person born of woman, who was born without blemish or without sin, and this sort of thing, right? So very, very strong statements that would exclude anybody except for Jesus being sinless. Another position also that a lot of these fathers take is they take the position that Mary was tainted with original sin, but that she was personally sinless. And so that may sound weird to people, but it's essentially this perspective that, like, she was born with a stain of original sin, but she was cleansed or sanctified soon after her conception. And so she lived a life without any actual sinful actions. And then there's another position, which is that Mary was born tainted with original sin, and then she committed actual sins. And there's actually a ton. I mean, this is, again, people can check out this article that I have here, full of citations to this end. There's a ton of stuff here from a bunch of different fathers to substantiate all of these. And so the for the ones that believe that she sinned, there's a couple of places that they point to. So one is they'll point to Simeon's prophecy, where if we all remember, right, in the second chapter of Luke, we have this guy Simeon that comes on the scene. The Lord has promised him that he was going to see the Messiah before, and so he goes and he runs into Mary and Joseph. And then he says in Luke chapter 2, verse 34, he says, Simeon blessed them and said to Mary, his mother, behold, this child is destined for the fall and rising of many in Israel, and for a sign which will be spoken against. Yes, a sword will pierce through your own soul also, that the thoughts of many hearts may be revealed. And so this is one of the key places where a lot of the fathers will speak about the sword that is prophesied to pierce Mary's heart being doubt and scandal at the time of the crucifixion.
Mhm.
Right. And so that she is actually scandalized by this, that in the midst of everything, just like with the rest of the apostles, she is thrown into scandal and doubt about who Jesus says that he is. And so there's that passage. There's the passage at the wedding at Cana, right? In John chapter 2, when Jesus, his mom, and his disciples are at this wedding. They run out of wine. And then
Do you have that in the Substack? Can you actually go to them?
Yeah. I can go to a couple of the quotes. So let me, because I have them on another doc here.
Make sure to zoom in once you find them too, so they can see it on the.
Yeah, here,
on
let
the
me
screen
go, because I took record here of a few of these. So if I can go to the Simeon's prophecy one, I'll give you guys a couple of quotes there.
Yeah, you see that a lot in the early church. Multiple church fathers cite the Simeon prophecy. I was talking with Michael last night on Catholic Christians channel, discussing a couple of those citations. One by Cyril of Jerusalem. I think in your article here you had it by Basil and a couple others.
Yeah, here, let me. It moved.
It's a common theme within patristics, is that she had doubt at the passion.
Yes. Yeah, and we see it all over the place. So here's one example from Hilary of Poitiers. So he says, a sword will pierce the soul of the Blessed Virgin Mary, that the thoughts of many hearts may be revealed. If the Blessed Virgin, capable of the severity of judgment, is to come in judgment, who would dare to desire to be judged by God? And so, I mean, Hilary's going as far as to say that, like, this is a moment that is bringing her into the severity of God's judgment, right? And so this is like very serious doubt. That's one example from Hilary. Here's another one as well for our Eastern Orthodox
Sure.
fans
moment
here.
Thank you so much for the super chat. I appreciate you. $2 super chat. Been loving the streams and content. Keep it up. Hey, thank you so much. God bless you. I'm gonna keep going. And making lots of videos for you, lots of live streams every single Thursday. I'm trying to have a guest on the channel and go onto somebody else's channel as well. So a lot of stuff coming up. Go ahead.
So yeah, here's another example. Romanus the Melodist. And I can give you like maybe one or two examples of the other categories as well. Romanus says, such a great mystery will be denied, so that in your mind doubt will arise. For when you see your son nailed to the cross, O Immaculate One, recalling the words the angel spoke to you, and the divine conception, and the unspeakable miracles, at that moment you will doubt. And like a sword, the pain of uncertainty will pierce you. However, after this, as a swift remedy, he will send to your heart and to his disciples the invincible peace, the one who alone is the lover of mankind. This is an interesting one too, right? Because a lot of the time our Roman Catholic friends will make a really big deal of, well, I mean, it's called the Immaculate Conception, right? And so when people call Mary immaculate, they're like, oh, therefore that means that this individual affirms the Immaculate Conception. But here we have an example where in the same sentence that he's calling her immaculate, he's saying that she will actually doubt and that uncertainty will strike her to the point where she needs to actually receive a swift remedy after the crucifixion.
Yeah, you see that.
Deal.
You see that quite often within the church fathers talking about this particular prophecy, in which the Blessed Theotokos is just pierced by the sword point of doubt at the passion of our Lord. One very striking citation by Cyril of Alexandria. He lays it out very clearly, and I was talking about this last night on the other stream. But I'll just go ahead and read it to you really quick, and then I'll let you continue on, Javier.
Yeah.
For it was his purpose to teach even this, that probably even the mother of the Lord herself was scandalized at the unexpected passion and at the death upon the cross, being so very bitter It was near unsettling her from her fitting mind. And in addition to this, the mockeries of the Jews, the soldiers too, perhaps who were sitting near to the cross and making a jest to him who was hanging on it, and daring in the sight of his very mother the division of his garments. Doubt not that she admitted some such thoughts as these: I bore him who is laughed at on the wood. But in saying he was the true son of the omnipotent God, perhaps somehow he was mistaken. He said he was the life. How then has he been crucified? How has he been strangled by the cords of his murderers? How prevailed he not over the plot of his persecutors? So it goes on and on and on and on with these doubts, these thoughts that they speculate that the Theotokos had in seeing our Lord on the cross during the Passion. So this is a very common theme within the early church to say that she had lost her faith for a time, because that would be the fulfillment of that prophecy. And I mean, just basic biblical exegesis proves this as well. But this is a common thought within the early church fathers.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's so common that, referring to Romanos the Melodist, I have a quote here from Polish Catholic clergyman, doctor of divinity, and patrologist. I'm totally going to butcher his name because Polish names are hard, but Basili Dagorski, I believe is how you say it. And he says the following. People can find this quote also on the Substack. He says, actually, here, I may be able to show it on the screen. Let me see, do I have it on here? There we go. Okay. So this is from a Polish source that was citing him. So he says, Saint Roman is a representative of the current of Greek patristic tradition, according to which Mary, witnessing the unjust suffering of her son, lost her faith in him, even doubting the possibility of his resurrection. In fact, some fathers interpreted the sword that was to pierce Mary's soul, as mentioned in the prophecy of Simeon, in this way. And so, again, it's not just a Protestant saying this stuff, right? This is a doctor of divinity, patrologist who's a Polish Catholic saying this about the tradition. And so we see that in that regard. The other two key places that a lot of the fathers will point to is there's one part in Mark chapter 3. And so in Mark chapter 3, this is after Jesus, right, has begun. So he's healed on the Sabbath. He has begun casting out demons, and he's appointed the 12 apostles. And then we hear in Mark chapter 3, starting in verse 20, it says this: Then the multitude came together again, so that they could not so much as eat bread. But when his own people, meaning his kinsfolk, heard about this, they went out to lay hold of him, for they said, he is out of his mind. And then from that part, it goes on to describe how there's an altercation, not just with his kinsfolk, whoever those are. We're not told who his family or kinsfolk are in this regard. But then the scribes come down, and that's when they accuse Jesus of casting out demons by the power of Beelzebub. Jesus obviously debunks them on the spot. Jesus just does some apologetics with them, right, about how can Satan be casting out Satan. And then immediately after that exchange, in the heels of the situation where his kinsfolk, his own people, come and say, they try to seize him and saying, well, he's out of his mind. Then we hear this in verse 31, quote, Then his brothers and his mother came, and standing outside, they sent to him, calling him. And a multitude was sitting around him, and they said to him, Look, your mother and your brothers are outside seeking you. But he answered them, saying, Who is my mother or my brothers? And he looked around in a circle at those who sat about him, and said, Here are my mother and my brothers. For whoever does the will of God is my brother and my sister and mother. End quote. And so this is actually one of those moments. I don't know if you've had this, Ben, very often, where I remember when I was first starting to look into sort of Protestant ecclesialist apologetics. And you have all the Roman Catholics online being like, oh, these silly evangelicals, these silly Protestants, thinking that these verses mean that Mary sinned. And they start mocking you, and they're like, oh, so ahistorical. And then you start reading the fathers, and you're like, oh, right. Yeah, they thought the same thing. Right? Yeah, exactly. It's almost like they had reading comprehension when they approached these verses, right? And so there's a lot of fathers who also take this reading. It's kind of interesting. They take it even further than I think an average evangelical would want to take it. So if I can pull up here, hold on. Let me get to the super chat real quick.
So thank you so much for the $10 super chat. That one, Carlos. If she is sinless, how can she have free will? Also, why couldn't God bombard us with enough grace for all humans to be sinless, like for Mary? Mary being the only human exception is so unprecedented. Well, actually, a lot of those good comment. Thank you so much for the super chat. God bless you. a lot of these citations, you actually have a whole bunch of citations that say only Jesus Christ is free from sin, don't you? In this same Substack.
Yeah. So, and I'll get to some of those in a minute as well. There's a bunch of, I mean, you mentioned Augustine earlier. Augustine,
Yeah.
even though our Roman Catholic friends try to claim him, because he has one passage where he's enumerating different sins from different biblical people, and then he says that he is not like, well, I can pull it up here. It's in my article where he says that he basically does not want to speak of the mother of the Lord, and our Roman Catholic friends are like, ah ha ha, here it is. But then you look at other statements he makes, and it's, at least to me, it seems fairly clear that he thinks only Jesus was ever sinless. And I can pull that up in a second, but yeah.
Sure. Yeah. Here, and for those of you that are asking for sources, I'll go ahead and I'll post the link to Javier Perdomo's Substack in the live stream chat here, and then I'll put it in the description of this live stream as well. So if you want to check this out and other articles that he has, feel free to swing by his Substack article. He has a lot of really good resources there on the canon of Scripture, on the Immaculate Conception, and other topics.
Appreciate it. But yeah, so here we have an example with Gregory the Great, speaking about this passage, of who is my mother, who is my brothers. And this is what Gregory the Great says. He says, the reading of the Holy Gospel is, my dearest brothers, short, but perhaps more than others, laden with the weight of mysteries. For Jesus, our Creator and Redeemer, hides the fact that he knows his mother, and he defines that his mother and relatives are those who are united to him, not through physical bonds, but through spiritual connection, saying, who is my mother and who are my brothers? For whoever does the will of my Father who is in heaven, he is my brother and sister and mother. What else does he imply with these words, if not that he gathers many from the Gentiles who are obedient to his commands, and he does not recognize Judea, from which he was born according to the flesh? Hence, his mother, seemingly not recognized, is presented as standing outside, because as we see, the synagogue is no longer acknowledged by its creator, precisely because holding on to the outward observance of the law, it has lost the spiritual understanding, and in order to preserve the letter, it has permanently placed itself outside. It's kind of striking, right? Because even I think a lot of the evangelicals or Protestants or what have you that would point out this verse, I don't think a lot of them would actually identify Mary with the synagogue as Gregory is doing here. So I think he actually takes it like one step above where even the average Protestant would in this regard. And he's not the only one. So I'll give one more example on this one, and then I can maybe go to the Augustine quote.
Sure.
Again, Hilary of Poitiers. So he says, let me go to him. Great. So Hilary says, speaking of the same episode, and because all this was said with the authority of the Father, when he, Jesus, was told that his mother and brothers were waiting outside, he extended his hand toward the disciples and replied that they were his brothers and mother, and that whoever does the will of the Father is his brother, sister, and mother. Thus, he sets himself as an example for how to act and think, establishing that from now on, the right and name of kinship would not be based on blood relations, but on communion with the church. Furthermore, it should not be assumed that he thought disrespectfully of his mother, as he showed great care for her during his passion. The fact that his mother and brothers stood outside, even though they had, like others, free access to him, holds a deeper typological meaning. Since he came to his own, and his own did not recognize him, his mother and brothers represent a prophetic image of the synagogue and the Israelites, who reject his coming and deny access to him. So here's
you see that
the same
you see that
typology.
synagogue example in multiple other patristic authors as well.
Yeah.
Tertullian actually says something similar. Somebody was bringing this up in the comments. Yeah, that's where I've seen that comparison before. Was in the writings of Tertullian. He brings up the example of the synagogue in reference to in reference to her, I guess, sin or let me see if I can find that citation real quick. He says, oh yeah, here you go. He denies his parents then in the sense in which he had taught us to deny ours for God's work. But there is another view of the case. In the abjured mother, there is a figure of the synagogues. This is the popular comparison within patristics, as well as the Jews in the unbelieving brethren. All right. In their person, Israel remained outside, while the new disciples who kept close to Christ within, hearing and believing, represented the church, while he called his mother in a preferable sense and a worthier brotherhood with repudiation of carnal relationships. So this is interesting because I had this same discussion with Michael Corleone last night. We were talking about the Immaculate Conception very briefly. I think we were actually talking about the Glories of Mary by St. Alphonsus Ligurian, which he calls He says that Christ is obligated to answer all of the blessed Theotokos' intercessions. So he's obligated to do so. And he made the point, he said, well, it's because you should honor your mother, your father and mother. So if the blessed Theotokos really is, Christ's mother and all that stuff, which she is, he made the comparison that, oh, he should answer all of her prayers as well. But I said, well, do you think Jesus did that in his earthly ministry? Because you see in the verses that we were just citing right now, in which he says, well, actually, like she's like, come here, she's calling for Jesus, and he's like, actually, who's my real mother? Who's my real, that? So he kind of the will of the Father always takes precedence. The divine will always takes precedence over the I guess asks of the Theotokos. Now, I would say that she's blessed amongst women, and all of that. But I think just to make that simple comparison, also another instance I brought up was what about when he ran off to the temple and he said, "Well, don't you know I had to be in my Father's house?" Would you consider that, always answering her every request when she flat out didn't know where he was, that kind of a thing. So, I mean, you have a couple of different examples of that within church history, as well as in patristics, and they cite those same verses to make the same point. So it's not like this is some novel idea. But anyway, yeah, I thought that was interesting.
Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, so with Augustine, the thing is like, so I have like a ton on Augustine here, so not to not prolong things, I went and pulled up the quote from another website that Roman Catholics utilize. So they'll use this quote from On Nature and Grace, where he's talking about different sins, and then he says, "Now, with the exception of the Holy Virgin Mary, in regard to whom, out of respect for the Lord, I do not propose to have a single question raised in the subject of sin. After all, how do we know what greater degree of grace for a complete victory over sin was conferred on her, who merited to conceive and bring forth him who all admit was without sin? To repeat then, with the exception of this virgin, if we could bring together into one place all those holy men and women while they lived here and ask them whether they were without sin, what are we supposed that they would have replied?" And Roman Catholic friends are like, there you go, right? Open and shut case. Augustine thinks she was sinless. But the thing is, that's not actually what he says, right? So he says that out of respect for the Lord, he's not going to raise any questions regarding the subject of sin when it comes to Mary, right? So this is more of like a respect thing. He himself is flagging it, right? He's saying, like, out of respect for the Lord, I'm not even going to bring up this question of sin in regards to her. And then if we look at Augustine's other writings, it seems that by implication, it is pretty clear that it is only Jesus. I mean, I love this quote from him, which is why I put it here first thing from him. So this is from a treatise on the merits and forgiveness of sins and the baptism of infants, book 2, chapter 34. And he says, quote, "There now remains our fourth point, after the explanation of which, as God shall help us, this lengthened treatise of ours may at least be brought to an end, or at last be brought to an end. It is this, whether the man who never has had sin or is to have it, not merely is now living as one of the sons of men, but even could ever have existed at any time, or will yet in time to come to exist." So let's pause there. So what is he saying, right? So it's like, great. Now we come to our final question, right? This man who has never had sin, never will have sin, is it even possible that he could exist? And if it is possible, has he already come, or are we still looking for him to come? And then he says this, "Now it is altogether most certain that such a man neither does now live, nor has lived, nor ever will live, except the one only mediator between God and men, the man Christ Jesus." I think that's pretty explicit, right? I mean, he's saying like this individual,
Augustine's an interesting figure, though, because you do have citations that would lead you to believe that he kind of goes back and forth in a lot of his writings. He's an interesting figure. Because I'll cite him. Well, Roman Catholics will cite him saying that Peter is the rock, for instance, and then in his retractions he'll say, actually, it's Christ. So I mean, you have this kind of this dichotomy with Augustine, where he says something, then he says like the exact opposite right after, or he'll say something and then he'll say the exact opposite. Just like in the example that you were bringing up, he says something that makes it seem like she's sinless, and then immediately says, well, actually, only Christ is the only one without sin. Which is why you have so much disagreement within Roman Catholic scholars on things like when the when the first patristic citation of Mary being free of original sin is. Like you have the liberal scholars like Carl Rayner that says it didn't occur until 1,000 years, 1,000 AD in the West. So you do have a lot of disagreement even amongst Roman Catholic scholarship on these particular issues. But I wanted to talk about this comment here. So Amateur Knight says, Cleve, I was on Nick's stream when you were talking to Sam Shimon. I'm convinced there's nothing meaningful to Vatican II's language. You might as well say pantheists worship the same God too. So actually, Vatican II's language does kind of allude to that, according to Jay Dyer, of all people, who had a recent kind of informal call-in debate with Kevin from Since 33 AD. I actually want to play that real quick because there was a point that he made that I thought was actually pretty strong in the language that Vatican II has about Hindus in their relationship to God. He would argue that Vatican II actually posits that Hindus worship the same God as well. Let me share the screen real quick. I'm going to take this off the screen just for a moment, and then I'm going to pull up that video, and I'll just play a brief part of that because I thought this was interesting. Kind of conversation between Jay Dyer and Kevin from Since 33 AD. Let me go ahead and make that full screen. Sorry, kind of boomer tech moment here.
You read it.
In the meantime, I'll pull up the Vatican II citation.
You don't know what it says?
I don't want to butcher it.
It says in Hinduism, they value the moral life and worship God. Excuse me. That's the. Let me go back up. That's the Muslim comment. It says.
He's flipping through his notes. Hold on.
Let me pull it up. I got that.
He's got the actual document in front of him. The original. I was reading it in Latin.
Full of sticky notes too.
Oh yeah. He's got the big fat book with 5 million sticky notes in there looking like a Subway sandwich.
Okay, here it is. I'll read the whole section so you know what the context is.
Chop chop.
It says, thus, in Hinduism, so we're talking about in the religion, men contemplate the divine mystery and express it through an exhaustible abundance of myths. And through searching philosophical inquiry, they seek freedom from the anguish of our human condition, either through ascetic practices or profound meditation, or a flight to God with love and trust.
Is that the same thing it says about Muslims, that they worship the one true God?
Does it? What does it say about God? What
That they fly.
Does it use the proper G there?
It does.
Proper noun.
Does that mean it's the one true God?
So, which one is it?
Does that mean it's the one true God? I mean, they could easily say,
how many gods do you believe in? How many do you capitalize?
Well, the Hindus believe in many gods.
How many do you capitalize?
I mean, I only talk about one usually, but
how many do you capitalize?
You're falsely inferring there that because
how many do you capitalize?
I think you're falsely in capital.
So how many gods are there that you capitalize? Anybody? The ones that you believe in, right?
Right, but I think you're falsely assuming there that means that they worship the one true God.
Why is it capitalized, you liar?
I'm not lying, Jay.
Why is it capitalized?
I don't know. But I think you're falsely assuming.
You don't know.
I think you're falsely. I think you're falsely.
You don't know.
Well,
you don't know. Exactly.
Well, I mean, I can make a proper guess without jumping to conclusions that they worship the same God as Muslims or as Christians or as Abraham.
So you think Muslims and Christians do worship the same God?
Of course, that's what the document says, Jay.
Yeah, exactly. Thank you. So it's not what Tim Gordon said, right?
I'm not aware of anything. I don't follow Tim Gordon. I have no idea what.
Okay, right.
No, I really.
So how do Muslims and Christians worship the same God when Muslims don't acknowledge the Trinity?
Wait, but why are you changing topics? Let's stick to the Hindus.
So you don't want to go there?
No, I do. I will.
You brought up Muslims. We're going to go to Muslims.
Still on Hindus. We haven't finished Hindus.
No, you brought them up because you just said you don't know why it's capital G. Now we're going to go to your other argument because you don't know. So tell me, how do Muslims worship the one true God when they don't believe in Christ or the Trinity?
Hold on, Jay. We're talking about Hindus.
All right. So this is what you guys do.
Jay,
you just said about the Hindu text you don't know.
So he brings up the point that in Vatican II, it actually capitalizes the G for the God of the Hindus, implying that it's referencing the one true God. So I think that's kind of an interesting point about the documents within Vatican II, that it does actually refer to the Hindu God, which doesn't make any sense because they have multiple gods, but it says the God of Hinduism, right, with a capital G. Isn't that insane? I mean, if you're going to claim that your documents, that your ecumenical councils are infallible, you would think that you would at least have your punctuation, your capitalization correct. If you're going to refer to false gods, you would use a lowercase g, as it does elsewhere within the same document. But when referencing Hindus, it actually brings up the capital G, which I thought was a good point. A good point by Jay there. He's going to have a debate tomorrow with some Roman Catholic scholars, I guess. Him and Father Ananias are going to go debate some Roman Catholic scholars on whether or not Muslims have the same God as Christians. No offense to those scholars, but they're getting fed to lions.
Well, and I think there's an extra problem here if it is indeed making reference to the one true God by capitalizing the G. If you want to pull up the shared screen, I have that section from Vatican II pulled up from the Vatican website.
Yeah, hold on, let me.
Yeah. So, and this is from
So zoom in a little bit so we can see it.
Yeah,
because it's super small.
Can you guys see it better?
Yeah, go ahead.
Great. So it says, religions, however, that are bound up with an advanced culture. I'm going to skip over here to thus in Hinduism. So it says, thus in Hinduism, men contemplate the divine mystery and express it through an inexhaustible abundance of myths and through searching philosophical inquiry. They seek freedom from the anguish of our human condition, either through ascetical practices or profound meditation or a flight to God. This part is very okay. So if this actually refers to them somehow taking this flight to God, and it's the same God as us, this is a problem because it says they do it how? With love and trust.
Yeah.
So is it saying that they have faith formed by love? Like they're trusting in God and they're loving him too?
Well, not only Hinduism, but also it says Buddhism right after that.
Yeah. It says Buddhism.
I mean, that's absolutely insane. Absolutely insane document. To be completely honest, Nostra Aetate and Lumen Gentium are indefensible. You cannot defend worshiping the same God as Muslims, I mean, you might be able to argue, oh, well, actually, maybe it's not saying what it seems to be saying about Hindus and Buddhists. But I mean, if that is the case, why are you using the capital G? Who do you typically use the capital G for? You would use the capital G for the one true God, lowercase g for false gods. So kind of interesting point there by Jay. Yeah, Vatican II is nuts. Hey guys, if you haven't already, make sure to like this stream. Not a lot of people from the Protestant perspective are discussing these types of issues. Myself, Javier Perdomo, Gavin Ortland are just a couple of them that do it. There's not that many that do it. So if you want to support the channel, consider sending in some super chats. I think we've got only 2 so far. Let's see if we can get a little closer to the goal there. I appreciate y'all. Thank you so much for watching. God bless. All right, so yeah, Vatican II is absolutely insane. I would love to have a debate with Sam Shimon. I want to try to make that happen. I've been thinking about maybe doing like a call out stream, like, come on, Sam, like, will Sam debate, I know he's seen this stuff before because they've spoken about me on Albrecht's channel and other channels. So
they also when I was very, very early on in my channel, I interviewed James White, and they did an entire stream like, oh, they're gonna dunk on James White and what he said on my stream. And due to their uncharity and desire to dunk on him, made the most elementary mistakes possible and completely misunderstood what James was saying. And so I did a video debunking them, and then it was just crickets. They never like refer to me or my channel ever again after that. So that was an interesting interaction. Also, sadly, with a lot of unchrist-like behavior and invectives and insulting of people's mothers and so on and so forth, which Sam tends to do a lot of in his streams. But yeah,
absolutely. uncharitable, not nuanced, not hyper qualified.
Nuance.
Come on, all right. I'll debate Michael Lofton as well. I'll debate anybody. Come on to the channel. Let's debate. Michael Lofton, Voice of Reason, any of you guys. Just pop on the channel, pop on a live. I'll debate you guys. I'll debate you right now if you come on the show. Yeah, I should debate Voice of Reason. You know, he actually responded to somebody in a YouTube comment section saying he would love to debate me. I'm curious if he would take me up on that offer if I sent him something saying, "Hey, dude, you want to debate on Vatican II?" Because it's indefensible. Cool. I don't think nobody would be able to defend that document, or it's tough.
Oh, and by the way,
oh god,
yeah, I was gonna say in regards to the defense of Vatican II, something that is I think a mistake here, is people from the other side sometimes will try to say, well, look at here, they pull on different like individual, often obscure, although not all the time. Protestant theologians, they're like, aha, look, they also think Muslims worship the one true God. And it's like, yeah, but guess what we can just say about them? That they were wrong? Or that this was a mistake that they made? Unfortunately, our Roman Catholic friends cannot say that about Vatican II, right? Because it's supposed to be infallible.
That is one benefit that the Eastern Orthodox have. They might have patriarchs to say crazy stuff. Archbishop Elpidophoros has said all sorts of crazy stuff. Ecumenical Patriarch Bartholomew has said all sorts of crazy stuff. But it's not dogma. It's not required. It's not within an ecumenical council. They're not bound to these ideas. You're going to find people in any faith tradition that make absolutely insane claims and statements. The big point against Roman Catholicism is this is stated within an ecumenical council.
Yeah,
this is in Vatican II. That's why it's a big deal. That's why the Immaculate Conception is a big deal, because they said this is one of the ex cathedra statements within a papal decree. You know, if it wasn't binding, it wouldn't matter. It'd just be some guy's opinion, right? But the reason that we push back on this is because it is binding. You cannot be Roman Catholic and not hold to these opinions, which I think they really shoot themselves in the foot. So, yeah, that's one thing that Eastern Orthodoxy has over Roman Catholicism on the issue of do Muslims worship the same God? It's not binding for them. So, yeah. Bro, it's nuanced. You're fallibly interpreting my infallible counsel. Yeah, yeah. Exactly. Whenever I hear Vatican II, I wish to watch Batman 2. Yeah, but what about Vatican 3? What about Vatican 3? You know, the best way to avoid looking foolish like Cliff did in that debate with that Oriental Orthodox guy is simply just to hold the real presence. Come on, guys. You want to get good at debating? At the moment you accept real presence, two things happen, okay? Your forehead gets as big as mine, and then you can also debate good. No, I'm just kidding. No, it does help to like the memorialist position is very difficult to defend. Yeah. So I don't blame Cliff. He's not a debater. He's a very good evangelist, excellent at doing that, but debater, not the case.
I also think people need to be, especially in a setting like that, they need to be a lot more comfortable simply saying, dang, dude, that's a good question. It's outside of my area of expertise. I don't know. Like, like if people just got, good at saying, hey, I know off the top of my head, like 3 people or 3 resources I can point you to, but I just don't specialize in that area.
Yeah.
That's it, dude. No clip being created and shared a million times from the no Vatican IIIs being thrown out, would have solved the whole thing.
That's like when people ask me about like Oriental Orthodoxy. It's not my area of expertise, man. I focus on Eastern Orthodox, Roman Catholic, answering their claims. Oriental Orthodox, I don't know. I don't really see them as present within this space. So I haven't taken the time to sit there and dive through their various arguments. All right, let me see this. $10 super chat, Other Paul. Thank you so much. God bless you. What do you gents think? A Muslim worships the same God in the sense of having the same notional reference to an ultimate creator, but also do not with respect to their fundamental error on his nature. I don't know why that sounds like Chinese to me right now. Go ahead, Javier.
Yeah, so I would say, so the other side will often give the analogy of like, well, let's say that you have, you're with your buddy at the bar and you point at a guy that's sitting at the bar who's drinking a clear liquid out of a cup, and you say, hey, you see that guy over there drinking vodka? And then you tell a story or whatever. And then it turns out, oh no, the man was actually drinking water. Well, you were wrong about some details. It's still the same referent. Um, I would, to try to explain like our concern here, I've been trying to brainstorm a different analogy. The different analogy that I would give is this. So like, let's say that we have, that we're detectives trying to solve a murder case, right? And so we're going to go solve this case, crack the case wide open. And so we show up to the scene, and upon our initial investigation, we agree on a couple of facts. We agree that, well, there's definitely a murderer on the loose, right? There is, maybe it was by blunt force. We all agree on that, all three of us. And we agree that the person escaped or whatever. There's a few key things that we agree upon. Then what happens after this point is, let's say investigator one, let's say that's Ben. So Ben says, okay, I'm going to stay here at the scene and keep trying to consider these facts and see what I can come up with. And so he just stays at the scene. Instead, then we also have investigator number two. Paul says, I think I know who this person that did the crime was. And so he goes and he chases after Jack. All right. And Jack is like, works at a bank. There's all this other stuff. He goes to chase after Jack. And then I'm the third investigator. And I say, I think I know who did this. It was Susie. And then I go chase after Susie. Fast forward a few weeks, and it turns out that Paul was right, and it was Jack all along. Jack's the one that did it. Would we say that if I'm spending the entire week investigating Susie, would we say that I and you, Paul, were chasing the same person? We had the same referent in mind? No, because I said the perpetrator wasn't Jack, it was Susie, and I was chasing after Susie, investigating Susie, who has a completely different job from Jack, has a completely different history from Jack, has different relations from Jack. You were going after Jack, who turned out to be the murderer. I would say that you and I did not have the same reference. We were not chasing the same person, right? Because we were investigating two completely different people. And you were actually right and I was wrong. However, there is person number one, Ben, in this instance. And let's say Ben never actually went past the basic facts of the case, right? He never actually came up with an idea of whether it was Jack or Susie. He never passed judgment on any of that. He just said, he stayed with the core facts that he knew, that a murder had been committed, that it was blunt force trauma, and that the person had escaped. I think there might be a sense in which we can say that Ben was contemplating the same referent as Paul, who actually went and caught Susie, or caught Jack, but I had a completely different referent because I was chasing the wrong person, right? So I think this is what happens with the Muslims, right? So when we're talking about the Muslims, they're actually considering, right? They're looking at creation, they're reasoning up from created things, and they're saying, okay, well, there must be a creator. That creator must be eternal, and all these other classical theist, aspects of who God is. And they say, but, the equivalent of, it's not Susie, or it's not Jack, it's Susie, right? They say, oh, well, actually, the Muslims are like, it's not the triune God, it's the being that is communicating with Muhammad, sometimes through angels and sometimes actually directly, right? And so it's this being that is actually the creator who's eternal, and so on and so forth. When they're doing that, that is the equivalent of them chasing after Susie, who is the wrong perpetrator. She didn't do the crime, right? Whereas we're actually engaged in the real investigation, going after Jack, in this case, going after the triune God.
I think the issue when you make this kind of like referent argument, which is what Roman Catholics do quite often since 33 AD. We're talking about this at the beginning of the stream. Since 33 AD, did the whole I forget what the name was. It was like, let's just say Carl or whatever. Two people are talking about Carl. One person thinks it's a man. One person thinks it's a woman. Are they talking about the same person? They have the same referent. And in the same way, we could say, well, Muslims and Christians have the same referent, so therefore it's the same God. The issue when you use that kind of argument is you open up for me to clown on you with this. If this is the God of Abraham, if this is the God of Abraham and the ultimate creator of the universe, this is just my idea of what he is. Is this the same God? Right? I think this opens you up for all sorts of theological errors, and ultimately funny meme moments too. But thank you so much for the super chat, Other Paul. I appreciate it.
Real quick, Paul has one further comment. If you see it right before that, that I want to address really quickly.
Do it quick so I get to the other super chat.
Yeah.
Quick.
So
Hold on, let me see
Paul
if I can pull
says,
it up.
if you can find, yeah. So as regards the concrete person being chased, no, the reference are indeed different. But as regards to sharing the notion of someone who murdered a certain person, yes, that's basically the situation. Absolutely, right? So I would say that that is analogous to what's happening here. And so I would say, I would even say that Muslims are attempting to, they think that they're worshiping the one true God, but they have assigned all of these characteristics to a demonic entity, right? They've assigned them to something else that's not actually the one true God. And so the actual worshiping that's happening, I would say that they're intending to worship the one true God, but they're failing to actually, their worship doesn't actually reach or meet the correct referent. It's meeting a different referent, which is the very thing that we're arguing. So, yeah.
Okay. All right. Thank you for the super chat, Proper. $10 super chat. If Christ is the sole mediator of divine revelation or redemption, no human figure can share this role without usurping divine prerogative. Yeah, I mean, no human figure can share this role without usurping divine prerogative. Christ is the sole mediator of divine revelation. I mean, he uses prophets, he uses creatures. It would just come from Christ first. So I don't know if I would use that same line of reasoning to be completely fair. It would be very easy for me to say, yeah, haha, got him. But that's he does use creatures like the prophets, right? Like the apostles, like the people who were inspired to basically, I mean, write the scriptures, which we hold to be infallible, which we hold to be divinely inspired. So thank you for the super chat, but I would offer that as a counterpoint to that point there. If you guys want to continue to ask questions midstream, we'll pull them up on the screen. Send in a super chat. Help me reach our goal. Oh, there you go. I got another one. Thank you so much. Let me pull that up real quick. All right. Recovering the Reformation, $10. Wouldn't that mean Gnostics worship the true God since they argued their God was the father of Jesus? Hi, Javier. I think you could basically argue with the language of Vatican II that almost anybody, as long as you have the same referent, has the same God. At least that's some of the arguments that I've been seeing pop up a lot in Roman Catholic pop apologetics. Have you noticed that, Javier?
Yeah. I mean, I just think that there's a lot of issues here. It's kind of funny, right? Because this comes up too, like all the Thomist bros hate that video from Lutheran Satire that dunks on all the like the Trinitarian analogies and why they're all so bad. And they're like, no, the fathers use these analogies and everyone uses analogies. And it's kind of funny because this is one of those moments where that same impulse to be like, what's the problem with analogies is leading to issues, right? Because they're saying, well, here's all these analogies with created composite beings. And so what's the problem if we're going to use this analogy in reference to God? And it's like, well, the problem is that God isn't a created composite being. And so all these analogies break down eventually. So, yeah.
Well, I got a scammer in the chat. Let me ban this guy. Someone's like, help, I have run out of gas. Please send me all of your money.
Yeah. Dude, I had a guy, this was like last year, I think, who was like impersonating me, but it was kind of funny because he was like, the dark bird from God flies at night, like make it go away, like send me $8 or whatever. And I was like, what?
That's hilarious.
I'm like, dude, like I banned him, but I was like, if someone fell for this, I don't even know what to say. I don't,
that's how you know you made it, man. That's how you know you made it. You got the scammers in your comments. I have I always see the ones that are like greetings, brother in Christ, blessings upon you and your family. If you would like to bless my ministry, please send me $500 for the orphans. The orphans in Africa need them right now. I see that a lot. The African orphans. There was a wave of them on Discord not that long ago. I haven't used Discord in like probably about a year now. But back when I was still on it, we had a wave of those scammers that were like, hello, brothers and sisters. I run a orphanage in Africa. Please sponsor the children and send me your money or whatever. And it was always like brand new accounts that was like Jesus Orphan Foundation 95 or something, Yeah, people will use Christ's name to scam people all the time. That's like those videos on YouTube back in the day that were like, don't skip this. If you know, if you love Satan, you're gonna skip this or something, you
Yeah,
know?
yeah. Dude, those messed me up when I was like a little kid, dude. Like,
Yeah.
I remember still being a kid, like at the start of like the internet or whatever, and that stuff would mess me up because I would see that and I'd be like, dude, I gotta share this. Like,
Dude,
we don't want
I
Satan
have no
to win.
choice. I gotta share this for the Lord right now.
Yeah.
Don't you see the meme? It's got like my child will share this post.
Yeah.
And then it's like Satan's like, my child will scroll past and ignore. Like, it's like, I don't no, it's
Yeah.
over. It's so funny, dude. Hey, welcome to the stream. Good to see you again. Yeah, guys, if you have questions, send in a super chat and we'll hop on those there. Did you have any other notes you wanted to share about the Immaculate Conception? We can kind of get back into that if you want.
Yeah, no, I mean, so those are just to give people like a bit of an introduction there. That's basically it, right? So those are the main problematic patristic positions for our Roman Catholic friends. It's fathers that make really, really, really strong statements about Jesus being the only person to ever have been born without sin, to ever have died without sin, even if they don't mention Mary, right? Because if Jesus is the only one, guess who that excludes? That includes Mary. It excludes everybody else. Fathers that will say that Mary was born with original sin, but then was purified maybe at the Annunciation or later. That is still not the Roman Catholic position. It's in fact the opposite of their position, right? Because they think that she was born without sin. And then the last one that we mentioned, which is the idea that Mary was born with original sin and then she actually committed other sins. And then those are the three ones for people, the three big ones for people to keep an eye out for, right? It's Simeon's prophecy, the Jesus's mother and brother standing outside, and Jesus saying, "Who is my brother? Who are my brothers?" And then the wedding at Cana. Those are the big ones that the fathers will talk about. And if people want to go to my Substack that we were showing earlier, I have like over 150 of those quotes there for them. So
yeah. Who's more buff, Wes Huff or Cleve? Wes Huff is way buffer than I am, dude. I mean, dude, don't get me wrong. I lift, man. I lift weights, but I'm nowhere near as buff as Wes Huff. I got something going on here. You know what I'm saying? But Wes Huff is jacked, dude.
Dude, I will say, man, because I'm like getting back in the gym finally and trying to lose a few pounds and seeing Wes Huff like just actually being like the Giga Chad meme, sharing Jesus like on the Joe Rogan Experience and just being like, dude, there was like a picture of him from like a conference he did, I think right after his Joe Rogan appearance, where I was like, dude, is this like digitally altered? Like, is it like, bro was like the most buff apologist of all time. I was like, dude, I gotta get back in the gym. Like,
yeah.
like what's going on?
A lot of it has to do with like cutting body fat too, because then you look more defined. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like I lift a lot. I gotta cut weight. You know what I mean? I want to define the chest out a bit. Then it'll be good. But yeah, so in this kind of Immaculate Conception discussion, I did a video in which I reference a Catholic Answers article. And there's a common argument that is used for to support the Immaculate Conception. They will kind of reinterpret previous patristic citations using a kind of newer typology. And you'll kind of notice this within a lot of Roman Catholic apologetics. They'll use this thing called the New Eve typology, okay? They'll take a text that doesn't explicitly say Mary was sinless, but will reinterpret the text using this typology, which is not typically how typologies work. Usually it's the text informing the typology, not the typology informing the text. But they call it a typology so they can reinterpret earlier patristic citations. One such example would be if you were to read the Apologies of Justin Martyr. And I did a video, if you want to check that out, I did a video talking about this and responding to this Catholic Answers article, because this article's been viewed millions of times. Mm-hmm. You have no idea how many people I've spoken to that this has swayed them, this horrible argument. That this just shows how easy people get gaslit, confused, thrown off their game by very simple play on words. Okay, so the citation, I'm just going to cite it off the top of my head because I talk about this quite a bit. The citation by Justin Martyr actually says something along the lines of this, as Eve was disobedient and thus sin came into the world, Mary was obedient to the birth of Christ Jesus, and thus life and peace came into the world. Something along those lines, right? So it doesn't say she was sinless. It says she was obedient to the birth of Christ. But they'll take this and they'll impute this kind of third meaning into it with this new Eve typology. And they'll say any comparison between Mary and Eve in patristics has this third meaning. It's two truths and a lie. So it says as Eve was disobedient, Mary was obedient, therefore Mary's sinless. And the text doesn't say Mary's sinless, but they'll use this to reinterpret earlier citations because Roman Catholic apologists, especially pop apologists, know that there are not very many early citations affirming Mary's sinlessness, let alone her freedom from original sin. So they have to rely on these kind of word concept fallacies and word games in which they will impute meaning into the text that's not there. Let me give you an example of another way that this could play out. So I'll just make up a typology that I use for this example, okay? So let's say this is fake, by the way. Nobody clip this and think I actually believe this, okay? Now somebody's going to clip it. Anyway, so this is the fake typology, all right? Moses had a covenant with God. Abraham had a covenant with God. They're two truths. All right, here's the lie. Therefore, they're one being. Okay. So now I'm going to use this one covenant typology. I just make up the name for it. One covenant typology to go and reinterpret every comparison between Moses and Abraham or whatever to say, well, guess what? This is actually supporting my new theology, my fake theology that they are actually one being. But that's kind of the same concept with this usage of this typology to inform the text of earlier church father writings like Justin Martyr. They do the same thing with Irenaeus, which is ridiculous. But yeah. Hold on, let's see.
Well, and with the Justin Martyr and other similar examples too, it's just it's so strained, right? Because when you actually read the passage when he's talking about, I think it's Justin Martyr, if I'm remembering correctly. If not, I'm sure someone will correct me.
Hold on, give me 1 second, Javier.
Yeah.
So this is Kevin from Since 33 AD. So he says, let's hope the dismantling here is not like the Sola Fide dismantling video. So what he's referring to, I had an 18-year-old student in college come on the channel, and he misquoted a church father. And these Roman Catholic and Eastern Orthodox trolls want me to crucify this kid for making a mistake, which is absolutely ridiculous and shameful. So shame on you, Kevin. I'm not going to do that. He made a mistake. I admitted to his mistake. The video was taken down, but you kind of show the fruit when you guys keep bringing this up and wanting me to crucify this kid for making a very simple mistake.
Also, if you guys want to see precisely why, with parallel examples, the patristic gotcha games about like, oh, you miscited somebody are like really, really bad. I have like a 7-minute clip on my channel. If you look up my channel and just look up Pelagius, you'll see it. So
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, that's, it's really funny. A lot of guys. So if you are getting into patristics, if you're getting into reading the church fathers and things like that, there are a lot of little pitfalls like this that you could fall into. So don't make the mistake that a lot of young guys, when they're first getting into this, do by Googling this stuff. What did the church fathers think about this? Because then you get to articles like this Catholic Answers article that I'm talking about right now.
And by the way, if our Roman Catholic friends, I know, especially our Roman Catholic friends don't want to talk about people using misattributed documents because if people just, look up Against the Errors of the Greeks by Thomas Aquinas and see how many of his patristic citations were misattributed or were forgeries, and, look up some of the famous papal forgeries to see how the papacy was, so I don't know. In my mind, it's like,
yeah,
18-year-old student makes a mistake, or we established the papacy over all these governments and all this stuff with forgeries. I don't know. Those seem a little bit different in magnitude to me. But
yeah, absolutely. No, it frustrates me when people want to mock this kid for making a very simple mistake. I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to let you guys do that either. So if you guys mock this kid in my comments, I'm just going to time you out until you can mature and grow up. But this is the thing, though. A lot of these citations that are falsely attributed, many medieval scholars quote them. Okay, Martin Chemnitz cites Pseudo Chrysostom in Examination of the Council of Trent, in which he says something about like who redid this one? Somebody put this on their blog. I think it was William Whedon. I think put it on his blog as well. But it was Martin Chemnitz citing when the abomination that causes desolation appears or whatever. You have to cling to the scriptures or whatever. But it's a fake Chrysostom quote, Pseudo Chrysostom. In the Middle Ages, they thought it was Chrysostom, but it was actually like some Arian guy. But there's a lot of citations that are like that out there that if you don't know any better, you cite them. Modern scholarship has shown that they're actually falsely attributed. There's so many of them like that. So if you are doing church history kind of research, early church father research, what I would recommend for you to do is read the source text and make Google Docs with categories. And then as you're reading the actual source text, put whatever is relevant into those categories. So that way you can do it that way. Do not rely on these articles. Even Catholic Answers articles get it wrong. They'll inform the previous text with typology. You'll be so confused. Yeah. Martin Chemnitz. What are you talking about, dude?
That's when non-Lutherans want to cite Chemnitz. That's what happens, you know. It's
oh, there you go. Chemnitz. That's like when I was talking to Jay Dyer and I said, what did I say? Chalcedon?
Yeah, Charles.
You know, anytime
that's an issue. See, but that's because you're a part of the reader class, right? Because it just so happens when you're reading a ton of these books and you've never actually thought to like say the words out loud, then you run into this problem.
Yeah. Hey guys, if you wanna support the live stream, help us reach the goal that we have in there. Send in a super chat and ask us some questions. I really appreciate it. I am trying to save up for a better ring light right now. This thing gives me a headache after every single stream. So I got to get one of those like soft light ones or whatever. That's my next kind of my next goal for the stream. Usually I'll reinvest these things back into it. So if you guys want to send a super chat, really appreciate it. Make sure to like the live stream if you haven't already. And just a heads up of some of the stuff I have coming up on the channel, a lot of really cool live stream collaborations like I'm doing right now with Javier Perdomo. Thanks so much for coming on the channel. I've got live stream collabs every single Thursday for you guys. Just after I'm done here, I'm going to go hop on somebody else's channel. I'm going to be on Nathan Lee's channel, a guy with about 40,000 subs. So that'll be cool. We're going to talk about Protestant apologetics. We're seeing more and more people dive into this subject. Just yesterday, Ruslan, whose show I was on, just posted a video about why he's not Roman Catholic or Eastern Orthodox. So if you have not checked out that video, check that out as well. What does a ring light cost? The one I was looking at was like, I think it was like close to $100 or something. It was like the mini one. It's like a soft light. The one that I have now is like this cheap $10 one. It blasts me right in the face. I'm like,
I've had the same, like it was something like content creator lights. It was for like $25 since I started the channel. It's really funny because like some of the legs are like busted. I'm like holding them up with like like books and stuff.
This thing hurts my eyes so bad. I use it when I make videos and stuff, and I'm like, oh my goodness. I've started wearing like blue light glasses and stuff, but it is like blasting me. That's why I have these here. One, they look cool, but then also it's like, okay, this isn't gonna hurt my eyes. You know what I mean? Hold on. Oh, is this since 33 AD coming back into the thing? Yeah, hey man, I would appreciate you not smack talking Isaiah over and over and over again, even if you think it's funny. He's a student. Let it go. Anyway. All right. So what else we got here, Javier?
Yeah, so I think just to underscore what you said before as well for people is for people to keep an eye out for, there is almost nothing that can't be proven, quote unquote, from typology that people just make up. And I think I want people to understand, right? We're not against typology generally speaking, right? It's not like we're typology haters, but there's a difference between, I would argue anyway, there's a difference between typology that's being done when the inspired authors of Scripture have informed us that this is a typology that's in the text, versus when we're just grasping at straws to prove doctrine. Which I believe even like the scholastics are not very cool with people just proving out of whole cloth dogma out of typology. The analogy that I give that paints like an easy picture is, I'm sure everyone here had that like 7th grade English teacher, right, who like assigned you a book, and then they're like, what do you think the author said that the walls in the room are yellow? And you're like, I don't know, maybe the author just wanted the walls to be yellow. And they're like, well, no, you see, because the yellow actually is a deeper meaning for, and they're like grasping at all this stuff. And well, no, maybe he just wanted the walls to be yellow.
Wow,
That's
thank
a
you so
different
much for the
situation for
$50 super
writing
chat.
you a letter.
God
Yeah.
bless you. Thank you
Oh,
so
that's nice.
much. That's awesome.
That's different from the writer writing you a letter and saying, oh, by the way, I made the walls yellow because X, Y, Z. Right. And so that's what we see with the typology, for example, in the Old Testament about Jesus, that the apostles, who are inspired by God, who is the author, the Holy Spirit, who's the author of the Scriptures, informs us that, well, here are all these typological fulfillments from the Old Testament. That's the equivalent to the author writing you a letter and saying, here's why I actually made the walls yellow. There is actually a deeper meaning. Versus sometimes what happens with these typological arguments that our Roman Catholic friends give us is it really does feel more like your 7th grade math teacher or English teacher who's like, trying to sell you on the walls are yellow because of all this other stuff that she's like front loading into the text.
Mm-hmm. Levi, did you mean to ask a question? Oh, no, he didn't need one. Thank you so much for the super chat, man. I appreciate you. God bless you. Thank you so much. That's really, really generous of you. But yeah, no, I completely agree. I think the typological argument for the New Eve typology to reinterpret the previous patristic citations is really, I mean, just dubious at best. Typologies are not supposed to inform the text. The text is supposed to inform the typology. That's what you see within Scripture. But they try to do a 180 reversal and use it to reinterpret patristics. Absolutely wild. Oh, there you go. Another super chat came in. Thank you so much. Kev Hicks, $10 super chat. The wages of sin is death. Is this only a physical death or a spiritual death? Also, how would vicarious satisfaction account for our own spiritual death? God bless. Javier, you want to grab that one?
So the wages of sin is death. I mean, yeah, so we would say that there's a physical death insofar as like we literally just die, whereas Adam and Eve prior to partaking of the fruit wouldn't have died. In terms of spiritual death, I know there's differences in how people would try to understand, different theologians, what the spiritual death refers to, because there's different applications, right? So we can think of spiritual death referring to like the final spiritual death of those that die apart from Christ, right? So hell forever apart from God. We could also maybe think of spiritual death in regards to like the fact that we are now tainted with sin, right, and concupiscence and all of this. And so the image of God that was pristine in Adam and Eve is now being marred in us as we now have this sinful nature and so on and so forth. And there's other applications there. As far as how vicarious satisfaction accounts for that, I'm not exactly sure what he means there. I guess that would depend on what he means by the question.
Pose a clarification question attached to that super chat, Kev, and we'll get to it. As far as the wages of sin is death, it's both. So it's both physical and spiritual from my perspective. I like to use the angelic fall theodicy as well. Gavin Ortland posted about this on his channel as well. I think it's a really good argument. Sin naturally corrupts. And that's when we see death enter into the world, is through the sin of Adam. So the original sin, we do see death enter into the world at that time. You see nature corrupted by sin. This also ties into Thomas Aquinas's free will theodicy as well. Because if you were to look at what I use this, I wish I had something I could draw on, because I teach this in my church as well when I'm going through Thomas Aquinas's free will theodicy. It basically goes something along the lines of this. I'll try to keep it short so I don't lose you guys' attention, but it goes something like this. It's like the intention, or I guess I don't want to use the wrong word. the purpose for God creating us was similar to the reason that I would have children, right? The object, to have an object of our affection, right? Are you able to love someone if it's forced? Like if I were to just grab Javier and say, Javier, you have to love me. Like, is that actual love? Like, do we have an actual, relationship, or am I, kind of just turning him into a puppet? So we have to have free will according to Thomas Aquinas. So if that is the case, we have to freely be able to choose to be in a relationship with him, though he does call to us first. But we have to be able to choose to be in a relationship with him. We have to have free will. In that case, we have to be able to, guess what? Do things in opposition of his will. That is evil, according to Thomas Aquinas. If I were to have a pie chart in front of me and there's like a little piece cut out, that's a privation of God's will when I'm acting in opposition of it. So that would be evil. That's evil, defined by Thomas Aquinas. Now, evil has natural ramifications like death, like the shortening of life. Now, that is according to the angelic fall theodicy. They tie this into, watch the video, the longer video on Gavin Ortland's channel. He ties it into a couple of other things, but a couple of striking examples would be the fall of man, and then also the need for the creating of a new heaven and new earth. And why is that? Well, one, the angelic rebellion, and then also Adam's original sin. So kind of interesting to tie in the ramifications of sin in the natural sense as well. Don't get me wrong, though, when I bring that up, a lot of people who don't really think through things too deeply will get confused, and they'll say like, oh, well, then is God just up there saying like, Javier smoked a cigarette, so I'm going to give his kid cancer or something? That's not what I'm saying. Death, sin just corrupts the natural. So that's kind of the angelic fall theodicy. If you're interested in checking that out, check it out on Gavin Ortland's channel. Let's see. All right. Any other good questions here? All right. Well, we're going to open it up to some Q&A here. If you guys have questions, put a Q in front of your comments. I'm going to go for about, I don't know, maybe till we'll see how long I go. But if you have some questions for us, put a Q. Let us know who it's for. And then if you want to continue to send in super chats, help me meet the goal here. Only need 6 more super chats to meet the goal by the end of the stream. I'd really appreciate it. If you want to like the stream, go ahead and do that as well. All right. Any other question? Would I consider giving us a copy of your Google Docs, or at least the layout format you use? I don't know if I want to post the Google Doc. Maybe I might make a Substack at some point in the future. The reason I don't want to post the Google Doc is because I'm planning on writing some books using some of the information that I have in there. But I do, if you want to see the information that is contained within my Google Doc, tune into these live streams because I talk about it all the time. All right. Any other? All right. Cleve, I think you have understatement self-authentic. I have no idea what that says. All right, next question. Kid Fury, question for both. As under the Protestant umbrella of Protestants, can we say that Mary is the Ark of the Covenant?
So my understanding, I haven't done a ton of research into it. My understanding is I've heard others who have looked into this say that a lot of the earliest fathers refer to Jesus as the Ark of the Covenant. But then later we do have a very popular typology of Mary being the Ark of the Covenant, because I mean she's carrying Jesus, who is the Word and who is the bread of life, and so on and so forth. I would have to do more research. I personally don't really have an issue if someone wants to say, "Hey, I kind of think Mary typologically is the Ark of the Covenant." If they're doing it, one of your commenters said earlier, and they're right. There's a difference between typology for personal edification and typology to try to like pull dogmas out of whole cloth. So if someone says, you know what, I think that Mary is kind of like the Ark of the Covenant, and there's this typology there, and that's personally edifying to my faith, I don't really have an issue with that. I think the issue happens when you say, and therefore the dogma of the Immaculate Conception, right? And then it's like, okay, well, hold on a second. How did we get from A to Z on this? But yeah,
I'll comment on this. Something probably controversial to my viewers. If you were to hold to the Eastern view, I think it makes a lot more sense than the view of the Roman Catholics. And what I mean by that is the pre-purification, the teaching of pre-purification makes a lot more sense when you hold to the concept of theosis. So they would say that it's a process of deification within the Eastern Orthodox camp. Now I don't agree. I don't agree with their conclusion, but I would say if you were to hold to theosis, it would make sense that Mary would have to be purified in the presence of Christ, because when we come into God's presence in the Eucharist, right, His grace purifies us within their theology. So I think that makes a lot more sense than in the Roman Catholic paradigm, in which it's like, well, no, she's free of original sin. How could she have carried Jesus unless she was free of original sin? To me, that doesn't make any. They don't logically follow. I think the Eastern Orthodox view makes more sense. I still disagree with pre-purification, but that's where they would go with the Ark of the Covenant thing. They would say, since she was, carrying Christ similarly to the Ark, right, then she had to have been pre-purified, or purified, as Augustine says, by his presence. He says a lot of contradicting things about this particular topic, though. So one statement that he says is that he repelled her earthly corruption by his divine majesty, something along those lines. So debatable with where you would want to go with that, but I could see more in favor of the Eastern view. It's also the earlier view patristically. I don't see an explicit argument for either, because you have dispute all throughout the early church about whether or not Mary had implicit sin as well. So
Which by the way, it's interesting when they dogmatize things like this that are, because people normally like to respond to us by saying, "Oh, just one father, just two fathers," which is why I like doing these Substack articles, because it's like, okay, great. And what happens when we get to over 100 quotations? Then then can we pull the well, we still have the consensus, just minus one or two fathers card. I don't think they can. I think it's also weird to say, well, we can have all of these dozens of the church's greatest theologians, earliest and greatest pastors, and so on and so forth, and they all think otherwise, or they think the opposite of what we do on this issue. But you, person, now, from the moment that this has been declared moving on, you have to believe this in order to be saved. There's something very weird about that, right? Because I would think that the deposit of faith and the things that we need to believe to be saved, to say that would change over time is very bizarre, right? Like I don't know. I don't know. It's a bit weird. So, like Arius and his followers were condemned before Nicaea. Right? Because being an Arian always damned you. It's not like you were okay being an Arian until Nicaea gave its proclamation, and then, oh, that's it. Now we dogmatized it. Now you can't be an Arian anymore. No, it's like we dogmatized it because being an Arian always sent you to hell, right? But something like not believing in the Immaculate Conception, it's just not on the same level. So I don't know. It just seems weird to me from the outset.
Yeah. Hey, Blake, I saw you sent a $10 super chat with no question in there. If you want to ask your question, just reply to the super chat there, and I'll pull that up on the screen and answer that. I appreciate your super chat. Thank you so much. God bless you. If you want to go ahead and just hit reply on that, I will get to your super chat first before I answer this other one. Well, I'll go ahead and answer this since it's on the screen. What church do I teach at? I'm an associate pastor at a non-denominational church currently, and Javier is LCMS Lutheran.
But I am not a pastor, so at least not ever since I became a Lutheran.
You used to be a Baptist pastor, didn't you?
Yep, that's right.
Nice. Javier, keep an eye on the chat. Let me know if he ever sends in a question, because I want to make sure I get to his thing. But I'm gonna keep rolling on with the new ones. If you guys want to jump in line with these questions, send a super chat. I'll get to your question before the ones that are just posted in the chat. Otherwise, I'm going in the order in which they're received. All right, Kev Hicks. Christ died for our sins. If the consequences of our sin is a physical and spiritual death, how did Christ atone for our spiritual death? Hopes that makes sense. Because spiritual death is hell, right? It's hell. So he's the payment for our sin. Does that make sense? I don't know if that I'm sure that would answer your question, but if there's something I'm missing in what you're asking, let me know. What other questions? Cleve, I think you have underestimated self authentication argument for canon. Would you agree? I think the messianic hope of no. So Anthony Rogers uses this argument quite a bit. I think it can be used in conjunction with the historical argument. It's just two different ways to skin the same cat. So you can use a self authentication argument like Anthony Rogers uses, who is he has an awesome channel. He's actually going to be coming back on the channel soon to talk about Islam, debunking the claims of Islam. So if you guys are interested in that, stay tuned. We're going to do that stream soon. But yeah, I think they could be used in conjunction. I actually said that in the last live stream I did with Anthony Rogers, in which we were breaking down Roman Catholic and Eastern Orthodox claims. Let's see. Any other questions here? Thoughts on conservative splinter denominations like the PCA, ACNA, and the GMC? You wanna tackle that one first, Javier? You look like you're
I
you look like your
I don't
PS2
know.
graphics right now.
Yeah. Oh, do I? Yeah. Sorry, my internet kind of sucks right now. I not really. I don't know very much about like denominationalism and split offs and stuff.
I will say this. I see the pros and cons for both. I get the point that Redeem Zoomer makes, where if all of the conservatives leave, the denomination can become very liberal and fall apart and die. I get that. I think where their alternatives are today, I'm not sure. Just being completely honest, I 100% I respect Redeem Zoomer and what he's doing with the Reconquista. I think it's awesome that guys are willing to go and suffer and labor for the kingdom to try to reclaim some of these denominations from the hands of the liberals. I don't personally know if I would. I don't think I would put my kids in a denomination that was that subverted. You know what I mean? Because the faith of my wife and my kids comes first over maybe an organization, especially if you're going to concede that it's a physical organization. You know what I mean? Like the body of Christ, from the Protestant perspective, it isn't like, well, the Episcopal Church is the one true church or something like that. You know what I mean? So we have a bit of a different view than what the Eastern Orthodox and Roman Catholics would have in that regard.
Well, and you covered one of my big worries with something like the Reconquista, which again, love Redeem Zoomer. He's a brother. He's a friend. I wish him the best. I mean, I hope that his project really does work in the long term. One of the concerns that I would have is, especially in a project that is relying heavily on, let's say, young men who want to serve the Lord, want to help fix their denomination, want to help fight back against liberalism, all good things. I would agree with you that for me, one of the biggest practical issues is what happens when these men have children and need to raise their children, especially. Which again, I know that part of the Reconquista movement is sending people into the good churches in the denomination to try to help those churches thrive, take over the others. I understand that. But for those individuals that are trying to take over bad churches, I mean, think about what it does long term to the psyche of your children, from the moment that they're conscious and that they're being brought up in the faith, they're being raised in opposition to, let's say, like their female pastor, or in opposition to their heretical pastor. I feel like that cannot be good for their faith formation in the long term. And that would be one of my main practical concerns there as well.
Yep. I almost feel like you would have to take the Roman Catholic priest approach and just be like celibate, going in there like, this is my mission, that kind of deal.
Hey, if they do that, I mean,
let's get to the super chat. I got two more super chats in here. Thank you so much, Blake, for the super chat, $10. The channel Intellectual Catholicism has been replying to my comments on invocation of the saints and has made an hour-long live stream reply to my comment. I'm no theologian, so I probably need some help. Intellectual Catholicism. Never heard of them in my life.
I believe that's Suan Sana. I'll say this, I'm not an expert on that in particular, but if you want a good book, one of the members of the Scholastic Lutherans YouTube channel, Seth Kasten, has a book on invocation of saints. So that is Seth, S-E-T-H, last name Kasten, K-A-S-T-E-N. It's on Amazon. I'm sure if you just look up his name and invocation of saints, you'll have an entire book there that you can peruse.
Cool. Blake, do you have a channel? Do you have a channel, man? Is that why Swan's responding to your stuff? Let me know. If you got, hey, anybody that's watching this, if there's any big fish watching this live stream right now, you want to have me on your channel, let me know. I am trying to book up my calendar with appearances on Thursdays. I'm trying to do somebody coming onto my channel at one point in the day, and then I go on another person's channel at some at the same day. So that way I'm balancing the work-life balance. I don't know if you guys realize I work a full-time job and I work as an associate pastor. I serve as an associate pastor and I do this for you on YouTube. So I'm a very, very busy guy on top of, maintaining these guns. You know what I'm saying? I gotta keep it all up. Come on, guys. You don't want me to lose the rest of my hair, do you? So help me keep my work-life balance, and let's book some stuff on these Thursdays. Thank you for coming on again, Javier. It's been awesome. I'd like to swing on by your channel sometime. We could do something.
Yeah, that'd be fun.
I know you're looking to do some debates, some call-in debates. That'll be cool.
Yeah, maybe we can do something on Sola Scriptura. Be fun.
Sure. All right, VR, $5. Thank you so much. Hey, we're almost at our goal. Only 3 more super chats, and I would have met my goal. So, guys, if you want to send them in, let's end strong here. I appreciate it. Thank you so much. All right, VR, $5. Question: instructions mentioning of prayer is everywhere in the New Testament. If intercession of the saints is so important to a believer's piety, why is it never mentioned? That is a great, great question. Absolutely. Why is it never mentioned? Because I don't think you should be praying to the saints. You know what I'm saying? Now, here's the thing, though. You can make a reasonable argument to say, you can make a reasonable argument on the surface level, because the pop apologetic argument is like, well, Javier's alive, right? The saints in heaven are alive. So it's just like me saying, hey, bro, can you pray for me, man? Like, can you pray for me? Oh, so it's the same thing. I'm just asking a buddy to pray for me in heaven. It's just that's what they would say. That's the pop apologetic argument. But then you have things where they're actually invoking the saints to do stuff for them. So like St. Anthony, find my car keys, or help me sell my house, or whatever the case may be. So in practice, it's not just like asking a buddy to pray for you. It's asking somebody who is dead bodily to do something for you. So that would be my biggest pushback. And then also all of the traditions that have accepted this use language that I would never be comfortable using in a million years. I had a really, really good discussion with Michael Corleone last night on this particular topic. And I was bringing up, I have a Eastern Orthodox prayer book here that is from the Holy Transfiguration Monastery. And this is a liturgical prayer book. So they read this in the liturgy. I would never be comfortable using this type of language, no matter how much nuance you slap on it. Like, you could slap infinite nuance on this statement. I would never be comfortable using this in prayer. This is in the Eastern Orthodox liturgy. Do thou open the portal of compassion unto us, O most blessed Theotokos, for hoping in thee let us not fail. We pray, through thee may we be delivered from adversities. For thou art the salvation of the Christian race. That's what they say about the Theotokos. I would never be comfortable using this type of language in prayer. I think that is the slippery slope that you get into when you accept intercession of the saints.
I have a Roman Catholic one as well. If people want to look up the Our Lady of Perpetual Help prayer, I won't read the whole thing, but just people get a taste here. O Mother of Perpetual Help, thou art the dispenser of all the goods which God grants to us miserable sinners, and for this reason he has made thee so powerful, so rich, and so bountiful, that thou mayest help us in our misery. Thou art the advocate of the most wretched and abandoned sinners who have recourse to thee. And then skipping all the way to the end, listen to this. He says, it's kind of wild. For if thou protect me, dear mother, I fear nothing, not from my sins, because thou wilt obtain for me the pardon of them, nor from the devils, because thou art more powerful than all hell together, nor even from Jesus, my judge himself, because by one prayer from thee he will be appeased. But one thing I fear, that in the hour of temptation I may neglect to call on thee, and thus perish miserably. Lastly, it says, obtain for me then the pardon of my sins, love for Jesus, final perseverance, and the grace always to have recourse to thee, O Mother of Perpetual Help. Yeah, unfortunately, a lot of these prayers, they And I know Luther, I was reading something from him recently where even Luther himself was talking about this in his day, that a lot of these sort of prayers and piety take things so far where it's like they almost like remove Jesus from you, where like he's now like just an angry judge that needs to be appeased by someone who is more favorable toward you. And the person who's more favorable toward you, it seems, at least in the way that a lot of these prayers are framed, isn't even like like another member of the Godhead. It's not even like it's like the Holy Spirit. It's just Mary. And so it's weird, right? Because it's almost like replacing Jesus in this sort of mediator role, and it's very, very unfortunate.
Another super chat here. Thank you for this $5 super chat. How do I say your name? Kanoka? I hope that's right. All right. Saw someone bring this up on X. Roman Catholic apologists are incredibly inconsistent between worship for Muslims, Protestants, and Latria Dulia. Are inconsistent between worship for Muslims, Protestants, and Latria Dulia.
Yeah. So
I've seen like, so the one point that you actually brought up with that
yes.
pop. Yeah, go ahead and talk about it. Talk about that.
Yes, I made the meme where it's like the guy that's sweating trying to figure out which button to press, and it's like Roman Catholic apologists trying to figure out whether to press the Vatican II Muslims and Christians worship the same God button, or the Protestants don't worship God button, which was a talking point that Joe Heschmeyer and company were all pushing together over at the Catholic Answers team a couple of years ago, because they try to argue that like, well, Protestants, well, okay, they differ in the way that they articulate this, so not all of them are making as egregious of a mistake as others. But the most egregious version is basically saying like, well, Protestants don't give God latria, which is like the type of worship due only to God alone, type of honor due only God alone, because they lack the sacrifice of the Mass. And so Protestants never worship God. They only give God dulia. They give him like the kind of honor that you would give to like your buddy or your dad or whoever.
Yeah.
But then the problem is Vatican II, the word that it utilizes is that the Muslims adore the same God as Roman Catholics. And I looked it up with some buddies. Adore for our Roman Catholic friends is just latria. And so they're stuck in this weird thing where like their pop apologists are having to argue that the Muslims give God latria, even though they deny the Trinity, deny that Jesus is God, blaspheme God, but then Protestants don't give him latria.
Right. Yeah. It's a wild argument.
But...
Hey, we met our goal. Thank you so much for the super chats, y'all. I'm gonna get to these other super chats here. Y'all sing the Magnificat, Simon's Blessing. Thanks. You're Southern Reformed Baptist. Do I sing the Magnificat? Yeah, I do. Right here. In my 1662 Book of Common Prayer. Absolutely, I do. I've been slacking this week, though. I need to get back into my prayer devotion. I've been slacking this week.
I've been slacking too.
I've been low on sleep. The last 3 nights in a row, I've gotten 5 or 4 hours of sleep each night because I got a new kitten and it screams at 4 a.m. in the morning, and I don't go to sleep until midnight. It's just sitting there. I'm like, put this cat back outside. My wife's like, no. So,
dude, I remember.
It's a sweet baby kitten.
When my wife and I were moving back down to Florida, which is where I live from Illinois, where I was pastoring for a few years. And I remember because we have 3 cats. My wife loves cats, and one of our cats, it was a night. Like when I tell you that I was so sleep deprived on our drive from Illinois to Florida, and I was, because the cat would not shut up. It was like meowing and meow, and he chewed through his like cloth carrying case, and it was like where in my sleep addled state, I like considered for half a second, like, dude, am I gonna have to like leave this man behind? Like, what is happening? And obviously we didn't. Right? But in the moment, I was just like, dude, this is crazy. Like,
dude, this cat is nuts, man. I was literally I was literally doing squats today in my room. I tell you, this cat came up and he literally bit me on my rear end as I was doing squats. Like, did you just do that, dude? Like, he's a little terror, man. He's horrible, but I love him. He's horrible when he wants to be horrible, but then when he wants to be sweet, it's like the sweetest cat I've ever seen. You know, it's only like 2 months old, little turd running around my house, terrorizing everybody. All right, let me see this. $5 super chat. Thank you so much. God bless you, Pneumaticus. All right. Have you read the Council of Constance session 13 through 15? Read the part beginning with that no priest under pain of excommunication. What specifically do you want me to get out of this? Let me know. Reply to your super chat with what exactly you want me to read in reference to the Council of Constance. And then I'll put that up on the screen here. Just reply to your super chat. You don't have to send another one in. Just reply to it, and I'll put it up on the screen. All right, let's see.
Blake,
Blake,
I'll have
another
you on my
$10 super chat.
channel
yeah, for
if
real.
you'd be willing. So
Yeah,
gonna to beat you
God
to the
bless
punch
you.
there. Yeah, reach out to me on Twitter, Blake. I would love to host you on my channel. So tell your story.
All right, let's see. I was invited to speak at Wells Seminary because I am a Jewish convert. I feel that Catholics are the new Pharisees. Maybe I'll start making videos one day, but no channel to shout out yet. Hey, no better time than today, brother. You know, when I first started this, I was just using this thing right here. I was just using my iPhone, and you know, with the help of the wonderful people in this community, I really do have, I think, probably the best audience out there, because people have helped me get a laptop, camera, microphone. You know, the money from the super chats I put back into the stream. Especially at the very beginning, I was like, man, I got nothing. I'm just using my phone and like a little $10 stand, and I would make every single video like that for over 6 months, maybe over 7 months. But with the help of the people in this channel, I mean, I've been able to actually get a setup. So make the channel, man. No better time than today. I waited for a long time to make my channel. I was doing stuff on Discord for years. I had been on Discord since 2016, and I helped to run the largest Protestant Discord at the time. At least it was the largest Protestant Discord, called Scripture Alone, with Dr. Reverend Mike. And a lot of people said, you should just make a channel. You should make a channel. Redeem Zoomer told me, make a channel. I didn't for a while, even after he said that. And then eventually I was like, you know what? It's time. I'm just going to do it. I'm just going to do it. I'm just going to do it on my phone, whatever. No excuse. Let's go for it. And then, I mean, it's done. I've definitely been blessed by God. He's blessed the channel with growth and everything like that. So I'm very thankful. If you guys are not subscribed, feel free to subscribe, because I am very close to getting to I'd like to get to 10K this, like, within the first year. So I come up on my 1-year anniversary of making the channel at the end of July. So if I can get to 10K by the end of this next month, I will be ecstatic. So pray for the growth of this channel. If I can get to 10K within the first year of opening this up, that would be amazing. If not, still very, very excited. And then, hey, if you have not subscribed to Javier Perdomo's channel, we recently did a video together on Dr. Gavin Ortland's channel that's going to be uploaded sometime soon. I'm not sure when it's going to be posted, but we're talking about the canon of Scripture. You know, eventually, I think I would like to write a book on that topic. That would be interesting.
I've been thinking the same thing.
Yeah. So that would be a cool topic to write a book on. I mean, we both have a lot of resources to dump into that citation wise. Who's this? You should invite Fernando Casablanca for your stream. He's causing some earthquake in South American apologetics.
So Fernando Casanova, I believe is his last name is Casanova. He has a YouTube channel. So he was like a really, really big, I think he has over 100K subs, Roman Catholic theologian and like YouTube channel personality. And he actually, by paying attention to the Hispanic apologetic scene between the ecclesialists and the Protestants, came to doubt the Roman Catholic Church. And as of a few weeks ago, he is officially a Lutheran now.
Wow.
Yeah,
Praise
so he's
God.
a really big convert from the Spanish-speaking scene on YouTube.
Very interesting. Does he speak English at all?
I've been trying to figure that out for my channel, and I'm not sure. I'm currently trying to talk to some of the people from the church where he got received, and unfortunately, the level of hate has been like insane. So like their church has been fielding like bags and bags and bags of like actual physical hate mail from Roman Catholics that are really angry that he became Lutheran. But yeah, I'm not sure. I don't know if he speaks English.
Yeah, interesting. Yeah, I'm not sure. I really enjoyed y'all's video with Gavin. Did that get posted yet? I didn't see it get posted.
I think so. Trolling us right now.
Yeah, he's trolling. He's trolling me. Pneumaticus, replies are expired. It condemns presentation of communion of both kinds, and by my reading the current CC is in violation of this ecumenical council. Interesting. Let me see that, because I actually have not read that yet. The Council of Constance. Let me see if I can pull it up, actually. Or I'll do that after this stream and look into it. Maybe that'll be something to add into my notes. One thing that I find interesting is if you were to, for the Eastern Orthodox, if you were to read the Council of Trullo, it actually condemns receiving the Eucharist using utensils. And what do the modern Eastern Orthodox do now? They receive the Eucharist on the Eucharistic spoon. So that would be an issue. I actually spoke to a true Orthodox priest about that, and he said, well, actually, they at least hold to this because they don't use the Eucharistic spoon behind the iconostasis. So like the priests, but I mean, they're still, I guess, technically in violation of the canon by using these utensils in receiving the Eucharist regularly. So that would be an issue. Another issue within Eastern Orthodoxy. I know that that's not the topic of your super chat, but just something that comes to my mind. Another issue within the Eastern Orthodox worldview is that if they're going to claim that they have like unbroken tradition for 2,000 years, the Eucharist was never mixed early on in the early church. It was always presented separately in two kinds. So that's a departure on both sides. You know who does that right? Protestants. We give the Eucharist in both kinds. So the blood and the body. So Roman Catholics typically is just the body, right? But they would say it contains both, but they're not doing the wine and the bread, right? So interesting. Another super chat here. Thank you for the super chat, by the way. What's the best way to convince an evangelical about sacraments, classical Protestant doctrine? I know somebody who's very stubborn about that. In my opinion, get them to read the early church. One thing that is very an easy way to go about this is take just go to like a Bible Hub or Bible Reference .com and find every verse that talks about baptism and read them to them back to back to back to back. Every verse that, I mean, just about almost all of the verses that talk about baptism says it saves, 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 it saves. You'd almost have to be reading the scripture like this. Like, actually, no, it's not saying what it's saying, and which I did for many, many years. So no hate on anybody who holds to that position. I was a memorialist for a very long time, and I actually debated for a long time on Discord in favor of memorialism. What ended up convincing me otherwise is I realized, I'm like, you know what? The more and more I read the scriptures, the more and more I reread the scriptures, I'm like, I feel like I'm inserting my presupposition into this. So I was like, you know what, Lord, take this presupposition away from me. I want to read the scriptures with a kind of blank slate and see what it really says about that. If you were to look at the plain reading of it, literally says baptism saves you, baptism saves you, baptism saves you, right? There's a lot of people that have a misunderstanding about what this means, though. But no hate on anybody that holds to a more memorialist view. Just answering this guy's super chat. That would be, I guess, in my opinion, the best way to go about it. I do have a hard stop at 45, though, because I do have to hop on that other guy's channel. So if you got anything else before we close out? And also, if you guys have any last-minute super chats, go ahead and send them in now, because I'm going to have a hard ending time in about 3 minutes or so.
Yeah, no, the only thing I would say, since we were covering a bunch of quotes earlier, and I have, again, if people go to my Substack, I got like a ton of similar articles compiling like as many quotes as I could find on a given topic. Watch out for the other side being like, because I actually saw someone say this way earlier, like an hour ago in the comment section here in the chat, where, people just say, oh, quote mine. And it's like, that's not an answer, right? or another one, right, is that people will say like out of context, and that's it, right? Like as though that's a refutation, and you're like, okay, can you demonstrate what you think makes this out of context? What is the context, right? Always ask people to provide you the context. So I would just say, like, definitely read things in context before you, dive into them or whatever. Try to read the surrounding context. Try to figure it out on your own. Read an entire work if you can at home, if you have the time for that. That being said, don't be intimidated by people screaming like out of context, quote mine, if they're not capable of demonstrating what's wrong with the quote that you're giving, right? Because that's not an argument. And as it turns out, if you said the same thing at them, when they bring up a church father quote, odds are that they wouldn't care, right? And they wouldn't actually take that as a refutation. So don't be bullied by people from the other side who don't like the fact that you have articles compiling hundreds of quotes,
Right.
just like they
Yeah, I
do
don't.
now.
Yeah, just don't make that mistake like people do and like try to Google it or like actually just use quote mines as your primary source. I wouldn't recommend doing that. Javier Substack is a good resource, but
A jumping
always,
off
always,
point.
always,
Yeah.
yes, always research the actual original source text as well. Use it as like the thread to pull. All right,
Yes.
$5 from the R. Justification by faith is mentioned everywhere in the New Testament. Roman Catholics teach baptism is the instrumental means without a single verse that connects the two. Actually, I would disagree because Roman Catholics hold that initial justification is by faith. That is Roman Catholic doctrine. That's their teaching. Initial justification is by faith. They just say that you have to maintain it with cooperation with grace. They say faith working through love is their slogan. As far as baptism, though, I don't know if they would say baptism without faith saves. I don't think that they would say that if you were to approach the sacrament by stealth, you're still receiving the Holy Spirit. Not. Let me see here. But that's a good question. Thank you so much for the super chat. Born again RN Council of Second Orange rules. If a person died, they inherit the stain of original sin. If Mary died, did she inherit it? If Mary died, Roman Catholics wouldn't hold that she died, though. They would say that she
Well,
assumed.
some of them do. So that they
Oh, do they?
disagree with each other. Yeah. So they disagree when it comes to the bodily assumption. Some of them think that she died. Others think that she didn't die. Steve, what's up? It's Born Again RN. It's a buddy of mine. Steve has a great book on the canon, by the way, people at home, if you want to check out his book. And we've done videos on my channel. But yeah, in regards to this, I would say, yeah, I mean, I think that's a good question for the Roman Catholics that think that she passed away before the bodily assumption. Which I could be wrong. You know a lot more about Eastern Orthodox apologetics and stuff than I do, but I believe because they celebrate the Dormition of Mary, right? So I know that a lot of Eastern Orthodox would say that she passed away, and I believe some of them or a lot of them affirm an assumption after her death, right?
They hold it's a nuanced view. They say she fell asleep. I don't know if they would use the term she died though.
Got it.
So but they do hold to some form of an assumption, and there is disagreement in their camp as well. But kind of interesting. That is also, I guess, one of the hardest Marian dogmas to prove early on. You see a whole bunch of disagreement on what happened to the Blessed Theotokos at the end of her time here on Earth. So, thanks for the plug, Javier, who translated my book into Spanish. Awesome. Well, hey guys, if you haven't subscribed to Javier Perdomo's channel, go ahead, look him up. I'm going to tag him in the description of this video as well. So if you want to subscribe to his channel, you'll be able to find him there. Anything that you're working on here soon, Javier? You want to plug your stream tomorrow?
Yeah, I have a stream tomorrow. It'll be a pretty chill stream, something similar to this. We'll just be discussing whether Christians and Muslims worship the same God, and it'll be a celebration for me reaching 5,000 subscribers. So that's what we'll be doing. Also, I should have coming up, I have all those slides for it. I just need to record it. Sometime soon, I'll be putting out a video discussing the question why we call Roman Catholics Roman Catholics and whether there's actually any issue with the word Roman in that name. So that'll be something for people to keep an eye out for.
Awesome. All right. Well, thank you so much for watching, y'all. I appreciate you helping me reach the goal for this stream. I'm going to be doing streams like this each Thursday with interesting guests coming onto the channel. Who's my next week's guest? Let me see. Who do I got coming on next week? I'll just give you a quick rundown of who I have coming on the channel so you can get hyped up for that. Next week, next week, it looks like it is that actually next week? Is that the 3rd? Is next week the 3rd? Yeah, I think so. Anthony Rogers is coming on the channel. After that, the subsequent Thursday, I will have Joshua Shuping, the former Eastern Orthodox priest, to tell us about why you should be LCMS Lutheran rather than Eastern Orthodox. The next day, that Friday, I got Redeemed Zoomer coming on the channel to talk about Protestant apologetics. And then shortly after that, the following week, I'm going to have Reasoned Answers, who does a lot of good work answering the claims of Islam, coming on the channel to talk about how he got fired for speaking out against Islam online in the United States. Can you believe this? In the United States, he lost his job for speaking up about Islam. Absolutely insane. This is the world we're going to be living in very soon. They just elected a Muslim, or they just elected for the primary, Democratic primary, a Muslim, a mayoral candidate who literally was pro-Hamas, protested in favor of Hamas. So absolutely wild. After that, I'm going to have the guy from Answering Adventism, who has a new channel called Canon and Creed, coming onto my show on the 24th of July. So a lot of stuff coming up. And then again, just quick plug before we close out here, we're going to have a members-only debate between true Orthodox priest Father Joseph and Anglican priest Father James from Barely Protestant, discussing Sola Scriptura. So that is coming up soon here. Let me just pull that. I'm going to pull that up on the screen real quick. So they're going to be discussing Sola Scriptura. This will be an awesome debate. It's going to pop up for members first. So if you want to check this out live, consider becoming a member of the channel. It helps me keep the lights running. So thank you so much again, y'all, for watching. This is going to be members only for the first 2 weeks. And then 2 weeks after that, we'll be posting public. But anyway, anything before we close, Javier?
Nope. Thanks for having me on.
All right. Well, thank you so much for watching. God bless.